Chapter 152. Her long hair was tangled and looked very messy, and it was wet and scattered over her shoulders. His face and forehead had several cuts of different depths, and each cut was oozing out thick or thin wisps of blood. Her clothes were soaked, and the white shirt on her upper body was in a translucent state, and the black bra inside was faintly discernible. The silver-gray pencil skirt was tightly ironed on her body, perfectly outlining the exquisite curves, and naked tempted the eyes of the onlookers. In the process of falling and rolling, 2 buttons on her shirt were pulled out, and a big hole was torn in the pencil skirt. They were barely able to cover the important parts of her body, but there was still a large area of her snow-white skin exposed in the air. The independent private room, the wet mature woman, the torn expensive clothes, and even the wounds on her face and knees were the culprits that triggered a man's adrenaline rush. The bag that Lu Chaoga carried with her was gone, and her cell phone, keys, and other items were also gone. She had nothing on her now, and was just an unlucky woman who was injured. Fong Yen threw her body on the sofa with great force, and in the process of flying and falling in the air, it once again affected her sprained leg bone and waist. She put her hands on the sofa, gritted her teeth, and sat up little by little. She had to sit up, and she had to straighten her back so that she could look more dignified and strong. She didn't want to be a yes man, and she was even more disdainful of using a woman's natural softness and weakness to win a man's sympathy. Lu Chaoga sat up straight and combed her hair with her fingers, preventing the long hair from covering her face and eyes. She looked at Fong Yen calmly and said, "I'm also very sad that he's dead. I'm very sorry, and I don't know how to apologize and make up for it. What's the use of apologizing? He's already dead. What's the use of apologizing?" Fong Yen roared. "What are you going to use to make up for it? Can you be his parents' son? Can you replace him as his wife's husband and child's father? Lu Chaoga, you're not omnipotent. You can't do anything." "Yes," Lu Chaoga said. "I can't do anything. He couldn't even protect his own life. I'm just a nobody, just like that security guard." "Lu Chaoga, what exactly do you want?" Fong Yen stared coldly at Lu Chaoga and said with hatred, "How many times have I told you? I'm not stupid. Have you been questioning my words all this time? I can joke about everything, but I will never joke about my intelligence and my life with you. You think I don't know what you've done? What do I have to do with you? Did I hold your hand? Did I touch your breasts? Did I have sex with you? I didn't do anything. Why does Jiang Zhulu view me as a mortal enemy? Why do so many people want to get rid of me? Lu Chaoga, you did it on purpose. You purposely maintained a close relationship with me. You purposely pushed me out to attract the firepower for you. When I first came to school, you admired me, but you always kept your distance. What have you been doing these days? You asked Xiaoming to call me to the office every day. You pretended to discuss everything with me, big or small, even things that had nothing to do with me. Do you think I didn't suspect your motive at all? Also, who was the one who spread the rumors in school? You're the vice principal of the school. If you want to control them, would they dare to discuss these topics in the office? What do you want to say? You want to say that you didn't. Of course you didn't. You're the vice principal of the school. You're the high and mighty ice goddess. Of course you wouldn't take the initiative to run out and tell others that I'm related to Fong Yen and that we're in love. Of course you wouldn't do such a stupid thing. But do you dare to say that you didn't add fuel to the fire in the dark? You didn't let it develop? Lu Chaoga looked gloomy and kept silent. Lu Chaoga, I know what kind of woman you are. You're proud and arrogant. You never put anyone in your eyes. Although I think I'm very good, I really didn't think that I could enter your eyes. On the first day I came, Zheng Jing, your office director, reminded me to be careful and keep a distance from you. Now, it seems that he wasn't all bad. That night, you leaned your head on my shoulder to intensify the conflict, right? Why? You didn't have to do that, but why did you do that? To teach those who hide in the shadows a lesson? Because you two quarreled, I became the punching bag for you to take revenge on him. Or you felt the danger, so you sped up your actions so that they would focus their attention and revenge on me? Even if you die, you want to drag me to die with you? Do I occupy such an important position in your heart? Fang Yan stretched out his hands to grab Lu Chaoga's shoulders. He asked in a disgusted tone, Lu Chaoga, say something. Give me an explanation. Give me an answer. You used me so many times and almost took away my life. You have to give me an explanation, right? Lu Chaoga calmly looked at Wen Yan's face that had become distorted at this moment. She said, You're smarter than I thought and more powerful than I expected, since you've guessed everything. What else do you want to know? What do I want to know? I want to know everything. Fang Yan pushed Lu Chaoga to the ground. I knew you used me, over and over again. In the past, I thought you were pretty and not a bad person, so I was willing to do some things for you. But now, someone is dead. The security guard who was chatting with us just now is dead. He died right under our noses. You have to give me a clear explanation. Why did you do that? Who wanted to kill you? Why did they want to kill you? I also want to know who wanted to kill me. Lu Chaoga stubbornly climbed up again. A mocking smile appeared on her face. I also want to know who wanted to kill me. Where can I find the answer? Who can tell me the answer? Her eyes reddened and then became moist. If possible, also tell me who killed my parents. Why did they want to kill them? Why? At Fang Yan's eyes widened. He looked at Lu Chaoga in disbelief. There was actually such a thing? Lu Chaoga's parents were already gone? Wasn't she a noble daughter? Wasn't she a match for Jiang Zhulu? Their parents didn't arrange their marriage. Jiang Zhulu fell in love with Lu Chaoga at first sight. Lu Chaoga was deeply in love with a loser outside. Her parents tried to stop her lover, but in the end, the rich girl and the loser man got married. Or the lover turned into a butterfly. The former was Prince Charming, and the latter was Butterfly Lovers. Wasn't a story like this? Why was it so different from what Fang Yan had guessed? However, if Lu Chaoga's parents were already dead, then who was she living with now? How did she get her expensive clothes and luxurious cars worth millions every day? Just the salary of a vice principal shouldn't be enough to support her expenses. Fang Yan remembered clearly that the dinner tonight cost nearly 10,000 yuan. That was a month's salary for many people. What happened? Fang Yan asked in a hoarse voice. After so many years, I can't even remember what they look like. Maybe I subconsciously don't want to think about it, because every time I think about it. Lu Chaoga's voice paused for a few seconds. It was as if she was thinking about how to phrase her words. However, she was stumped by this question. After a long time, he continued, maybe he shed too many tears when he was young, and his tears dried up. So, I don't know how to cry now. At that time, I was too young and didn't understand a lot of things. I only remembered that I was still in elementary school. Andy suddenly came to school during class. She said a few words to the teacher and then took me back. That was my least favorite language class. I was so happy that I didn't have to go to class anymore. On the way back, Andy hugged me and cried nonstop. She kept talking about what to do in the future, what to do in the future. Only then did I know that my parents had passed away. They died on a trip. In the country that was known as the closest to heaven, they were robbed by gangsters. They refused to hand over their belongings, so those vicious gangsters with knives killed them all. They passed away just like that. I couldn't even see them for the last time. Auntie and Qiang Long Tan went abroad to handle the funeral. My parents, they became a small urn. What happened after that? Fang Yan asked. After that, Annie had to go abroad to work. I was taken to live with Qiang Long Tan except for the years I went abroad to study and work until now, Lu Chaoga said. Why? Fang Yan frowned and asked. He felt that there was something wrong with this matter, but he couldn't tell what was wrong with it at the moment. Qiang Long Tan is Jiang Zhulio's father? He is friends with your father? Or are you saying that your families are related? They are very good friends and business partners, Lu Chaoga said. My parents are engineers. They mainly research renewable energy. My parents invested their technology and Qiang Long Tan invested money. They formed a company together, which is now the famous Longtu Group. I know a little about Longtu Group. It started with energy technology and has developed rapidly. It is now a comprehensive business empire. In the field of energy technology, Longtu can be ranked in the top 5 in the former country and the number 1 in Lingnan. Fang Yan thought about it and said, I heard you calling Qiang Long Tan's name. He takes care of you so much. Don't you have the slightest bit of respect for him? Chapter 153. The grace of a drop of water must be repaid with a fountain of water. After Lu Chaoga's parents passed away, Qiang Long Tan adopted her and provided for her to eat. Logically speaking, Lu Chaoga should be grateful to the Jiang family. How could she call his name so emotionlessly? Fang Yan was very sensitive to details, so he easily found the problem in Lu Chaoga's words. You think I should be grateful to him, right? A sneer appeared on Lu Chaoga's face. Everyone in the world thinks that I should be grateful to him. If he hadn't adopted me, I would have been alone and without anyone to rely on. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to study abroad, and I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. If it wasn't for him, I would have nothing. I would have been a nameless, ordinary woman who couldn't even dream of having a meal at Sky Number 1. So, I want to call Qiang Long Tan my adoptive father, and I want to marry his son, Jiang Zhulu. I want to give them everything they want. I can't refuse or resist, or else I'll be disloyal, unfilial, heartless, and unjust. Is this the only way I can repay them for adopting me? Is this the only way I can be a grateful, affectionate, and righteous woman? You? Fang Yan thought for a moment, then said, You seem to be very depressed. Depressed? Lu Chaoga laughed out loud. This is depression? My parents died for no reason, but I was adopted by a family that might be the murder. My aunt was threatened, went abroad, and never took the initiative to contact me again. When she left, she told me that she was going to the United States, but I couldn't find any trace of her being there when I went to study there. My parents own 49% of the shares in the loan to group, but as their only heir, I've never seen any profits, only the so-called dividends that they pay into my card every year. Outsiders only see that I'm living a luxurious life, luxurious cars, and luxurious houses, so they think that the Jiang family treats me like their own child. But how much profit do they take from the company? They smile at each other every day, and they look kind and kind. One of them announced to everyone that I was the best candidate for her daughter-in-law, while the other treated me like his own daughter, not even comparable to his own son. Everyone praised her for being a good mother, and everyone praised him for being a good father. However, the more they acted like this, the more I couldn't resist them. Otherwise, you're heartless, ungrateful, and vicious. Even when I wanted to live outside, I was rejected by them. They said that living together as a family would be more intimate and warm. Should I be grateful? Lu Chaoga stared at Fang Yan and asked, Should I thank them? You said I don't know how to smile. How can I smile in such an environment? Fang Yan didn't expect Lu Chaoga's background to be so complicated, nor did he expect her to live in such a harsh environment. Even if there was no real evidence, she had already determined that the Jiang family had something to do with her parents' death. However, she could pretend that nothing had happened and live with them calmly and naturally, as if she was really a family with them. How strong and tenacious was this woman's endurance? How broad-minded was he? Fang Yan didn't think he could do it. If he stood in Lu Chaoga's position, he would have fought with them fiercely. However, Lu Chaoga did it. She was looking for evidence, and she was waiting for the best opportunity. Is this Qiang Long Tan, or Jiang Bieha? Fang Yan said angrily. The more kind and righteous a person is on the surface, the more immoral they are when they do bad things. You said that Qiang Long Tan might be the murderer of your parents. Do you have any evidence?
No.
Lu Chaoga shook her head. When they had the accident, I was too young. I didn't have time to see them for the last time. My aunt couldn't bring back their bodies, and only a part of their ashes was burned together. After so many years, if the other party was careful, how could I find any evidence? Your aunt might know something. Fang Yan said. Did you look for her again? Yes. Lu Chaoga said angrily. It was like she disappeared from this world. Or maybe she really disappeared. It was because I couldn't find her that I began to suspect that my parents' death might be a conspiracy. This suspicion is very reasonable, Fang Yan said. His eyes were cold, and he said with a murderous look, In other words, This car accident might have been arranged by the Jiang family? I don't know, Lu Chaoga said. All my property and connections are under their surveillance. I don't have anyone I can use. Even if I wanted to investigate something, it would be difficult to do it independently. Your appearance is a variable. Then, why did you suddenly start to use me more? You're much closer to me now than before. Because I feel danger, Lu Chaoga said. In the past, they've never urged me to marry Jiang Zhulu like this. What if we get married? I'll become a member of the Jiang family, Lu Chaoga said. In other words, the Jiang family has complete control over the Longta Group? Yes, Lu Chaoga said. One of the executives in the Longta Group was my father's classmate. He told me that Qiang Long Tan has been quietly diluting the shares that belong to my father. Recently, he even tried to change the name of the patent that originally belonged to my parents. If the owner of the patent changed it, then it would be easy for them to kick my father and me out of the Longta Group. The Lu family will no longer have anything to do with the Longta Group. They really have to be tough with both hands. Fang Yan sneered. On one hand, they want you to become a member of the Jiang family. This way, it will be easier for them to control you. They will even force you to agree to change the owner of the patent. On the other hand, they take care of you in every possible way. If you jump out and fight with them for the shares, I'm afraid everyone will stand up and blame you. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, since they want you to become a member of the Jiang family, why did this happen today? They are here for you. They want to kill you. I don't know. Lu Chaoga shook her head. I don't know anything, just like you. I have never understood them, and I don't know how to understand them. You would never be able to experience that kind of feeling. Even if everyone sat at the same table to eat, everyone's face was covered with a thick layer of film. Everything could be a disguise. Every one of them was a master of acting. I have lived in the Jiang family for so many years, so I learned to act like them. I learned to be calm and collected, and learned that no one can read my mind. This is my biggest gain. Sadness is not a reason to be forgiven. That security guard died because of me. I feel very guilty, but I have no other choice. Lu Chaoga said. I should have died with him. You helped me make the choice. You saved my life. They are insane. A living being was sent flying by them, just like that. They want to kill you and me at the same time. It doesn't matter to them whether they kill one person or 3 people. Fang Yan's anger completely exploded, and he said in a cold voice, I don't care who they are, no matter what their status is. If they want me dead, I will never let them live well. I promise. Then, you will be used by me again. Lu Chaoga said. In the past, it was Lu Chaoga who took the initiative to drag Fang Yan into the battlefield, and she became the vanguard of this war. After the tragedy at Sky 1, Fang Yan began to take the initiative to find out the truth of the accident, and he volunteered to join the battle. Because he couldn't let the security guard die in vain, he couldn't let himself suffer such grievances. He could ignore Lu Chaoga, he could ignore the security guard, but he couldn't ignore himself. As for the process of revenge, he would be more closely allied with Lu Chaoga and even help her bear the main artillery fire. That wasn't the most important thing. Knock, knock. Someone was knocking on the door outside. Fang Yan, come out quickly. Bring Lu Chaoga out if anything happens to her. Jiang Zhuliu's urgent voice sounded outside the room. The person inside listened. You are surrounded. This was the voice of a strange man. Don't act rashly. Let go of the hostage. Put your hands on your head and squat on the ground. We will attack in 3 seconds. 3,
2, 1.
Bang! The door of the room was kicked open, and a group of armed policemen rushed in, pointing their guns at Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, who was hugging Fang Yan. Yes, Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga's bodies were tightly hugging each other. Lu Chaoga's body leaned weakly on the sofa, and Fang Yan's body was on top of her, one hand caressing under her clothes, the other hand holding her neck, pulling her upper body closer to him. They hugged passionately and kissed passionately. They were so unemotional, as if everything in this world had nothing to do with them. All they needed were those red lips and a scorching hot body. Gotcha! Many people subconsciously pointed their guns at the ground. Even more people widened their eyes. Didn't they say there was a kidnapper? Why did they only see a pervert? Jiang Zhulu stood behind the crowd, seeing the scene inside the room. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and he pointed at Fang Yan and shouted, "Fang Yan, you dare touch my woman. She is my woman," Fang Yan said without turning his head. Chapter 154. Jiang Zhuliu's pupils dilated. His chest was stuffy and hot, and his fingers were stinging. They were broken by Fang Yan. All kinds of discomfort mixed together, and he felt like his body was about to explode. The woman who grew up with him, the woman whom he regarded as his life partner and marriage partner, was now lying on the sofa in a sexy and seductive position. An annoying little wretch was pressing on top of her, using his hands and mouth to diligently study and work hard to obtain. Anyone who saw this scene would have the urge to pick up a knife and fight to the death. This should have been what he did, and he had imagined this scene countless times. But why did it turn out like this? Why was the truth so cruel and unacceptable? "Kill him," Jiang Zhulu shouted. "He's a kidnapper, kill him quickly." No one would really shoot someone. No one was stupid. How could they shoot someone just because of a sentence from the eldest young master of the Jiang family? Obviously, this was a couple who couldn't control themselves, so they found a private room to make out. What did it have to do with kidnappers kidnapping hostages? At most, they would be charged with a crime of corrupting social morals, which was not serious enough to shoot them to death. "Calm down." Lu Shu walked behind Jiang Zhulu, put his arm around his shoulders, and said, "A lot of people are watching you. Don't let them look down on you. Don't let them see you as a joke." The pain in his fingers made Jiang Zhulu sober up gradually. He stared at Fang Yan fiercely and said, "Even if he's not a kidnapper, the evidence is conclusive that he beat and injured someone. Are we going to let the murder get away with it?" A middle-aged police officer came out, pointed at Fang Yan, and said, "Take him away." Two police officers quickly came over and dragged Fang Yan, who was still lying on Lu Chaoga's body, and their tongues entangled. Fang Yan looked at the middle-aged police officer and asked, "What did I do that you want to take me away?" "Beat and seriously injured someone. Why can't we take you away?" The middle-aged police officer said with a sneer. Jiang Zhulu didn't like people, so he naturally didn't like them either. Besides, how could a guy who would drag a woman into a private room of a restaurant to have an affair be a good person? "That was self-defense," Fang Yan said confidently. "Are there any surveillance cameras in the hotel lobby?" "Yes," the hotel manager standing outside the private room replied in a low voice. "If there is video surveillance, you can see it in the video. Someone took my girlfriend away. A group of people surrounded my girlfriend and tried to do something bad to her. They also stopped me from getting close to her. In order to protect my girlfriend, I had to take action. I did what every man in the world would do. Was this also a crime? If you want to take me away, they won't be spared either. Your girlfriend?" Jiang Zhuliu's breathing was rapid, and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked like he was about to go berserk. He said she was his girlfriend? How could his woman, his fiancée, be his girlfriend? "Men!" Jiang Zhulu shouted. "Jiang Zhulu," the willow tree called out. "Do you know what you're doing? Where did your IQ go? There are police here. What can you do to him? 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. There will be plenty of opportunities to play him to death in the future. Why are you in such a hurry?"
Calm down.
"I can't calm down," Jiang Zhulu said. "Willow, I can calm down about other things. But I can't do this. I know I look like an idiot right now. Let me go crazy for once. Just this once, no matter what the consequences are." Fang Yan crossed his arms and sneered. "Do you want to beat me up? This is a society governed by law." "You..." Jiang Zhulu wanted to rush over and beat up Fang Yan. The willow tree hugged Jiang Zhulu and roared, "Jiang Zhulu, didn't you notice? He is deliberately provoking you. He wants you to take the initiative to make a move. Don't fall for it." Jiang Zhulu knew he couldn't beat Fang Yan, and he also knew that his current behavior was impulsive and irrational. However, Fang Yan was too hateful. Revealing the fact that he was slapped in the face in public had already caused him to lose all face in the circle. Now, he actually slept with the woman he liked, *T gentlemanly character, Bullsh asterisk T aristocratic demeanor, Bullsh asterisk T rationality and scheming. He just wanted to ruthlessly beat up Fang Yan. Ruthlessly beat him up. But why was it so difficult? Ever since he was young, big young Master Jiang, who was used to having everything he wanted and everything he wanted, had never been so humiliated. After getting to know Fang Yan, he finally understood the true meaning of the phrase, life is hard. Bastard. A deep voice suddenly rang out from outside the private room. Everyone looked out and saw a middle-aged man in a black suit standing behind the crowd with a stern face. He was surrounded by a large group of assistants and bodyguards, looking extraordinary. Dad. Jiang Zhulu shouted in surprise. Uncle Jiang. Lu Shu let go of Jiang Zhulio's shoulder and took the initiative to greet Qiang Longtan. The crowd dispersed and Qiang Longtan walked over with large strides. This was Qiang Longtan? This was the murderer who might have killed Lu Chaoga's parents? Fang Yan looked him up and down seriously. He looked at his gentle yet sharp eyes, his thick and seemingly stiff eyebrows, his well-maintained skin that shone with a bright luster, and his protruding forehead and thick lips. This was a very charming man. Both his looks and temperament were top-notch. Moreover, he gave off a sense of justice that was dignified without being angry, causing people to naturally feel fear when they saw him. This kind of man was both an official and a wealthy man. He made money from doing business, entered an official career, and got promoted. He would never live a mediocre life. Was he really the kind of man that Lu Chaoga had guessed? Qiang Longtan ignored Jiang Zhulio's shouts and Lu Shu's greetings. He walked straight to Lu Chaoga, squatted down, and asked with concern, "How are your injuries?" He had to admit that this was a very considerate and gentle father. If he hadn't heard Lu Chaoga's story just now, and if it wasn't for his preconceived feelings, he would have been conquered by Qiang Longtan's attitude towards Lu Chaoga. No wonder Lu Chaoga couldn't breathe in that kind of family. Having a father like this was really stressful. "I'm fine," Lu Chaoga said calmly. She had lived in that family for too many years and was already immune to such care. "Who did it?" Qiang Longtan asked. Lu Chaoga looked into Qiang Longtan's eyes and said, "I don't know. It's fine." Qiang Longtan patted the back of Lu Chaoga's hand gently. "I'll look into it. I'll find out who it is, no matter who it is." Qiang Longtan got up abruptly and looked at Fang Yan and the agitated Jiang Zhulu. "What's going on?" The middle-aged officer came over and explained the situation to Qiang Longtan in a low voice. Qiang Longtan frowned and said, "Jiang Zhulu is Chaoga's younger brother. He's not a stranger, and there's no way he's up to no good." Qiang Longtan's words blocked the loophole of Jiang Zhulio's false alarm. "Understood," the middle-aged officer said. Qiang Longtan pointed at Fang Yan, then looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, "He's your friend?" "Yes," Lu Chaoga said. Chaoga's friend is also Jiang Zhulio's friend. There's no need to go to the police station to solve a small conflict between friends. "Just let it go," Qiang Longtan said. He turned to look at Fang Yan and said, "The dead should be respected. Let's keep quiet, okay?" Fang Yan was speechless. That was a very good question. If he didn't agree, he would be disrespecting the dead, looking for trouble, and being ungrateful. It's so hard to be a human being. Fang Yan thought to himself. You want to calm things down, but have you considered how I, the murderer, feel? No problem. It's great that we can make it a small matter. The middle-aged officer was overjoyed. Now that the injured party didn't want to pursue the matter, he naturally had peace. Lu Chaoga is my daughter. My daughter was assassinated in this restaurant. You must help me find the murderer. Qiang Longtan said to the middle-aged officer this time. I don't want to wait too long. We'll try our best. We won't let Mr. Jiang down. The middle-aged officer straightened his back and said. Although the person standing in front of him wasn't his immediate superior, he still felt heavy pressure. I believe you, Qiang Longtan said. The middle-aged officer wanted to laugh, but he couldn't. Qiang Longtan walked to Lu Chaoga and said in a low voice, Let's go. Let's go home. Since Qiang Longtan came to the scene, it had become his word. Everything was arranged in an orderly manner, and almost no one could raise any objections. Everyone had to agree with him. Everyone had to follow his rhythm. This was the charm of a man, the charm of having everything under control. Fang Yan suddenly felt very angry. "You're a bad person, you hypocrite. Why should we listen to your arrangements? Why should we let you take the lead?" Qiang Long Tan was like a peerless martial arts master. As soon as you wanted to punch, the other party had already figured out your fist. As soon as you wanted to kick, he had already blocked your attack. Your actions were transparent in front of him. You were so weak and insignificant compared to him. He didn't like the feeling of being completely controlled. "I have to break his control. I have to disrupt his rhythm." A voice in his heart shouted. "She won't go back." Fang Yan said aloud. Qiang Long Tan turned to look at Fang Yan and asked in a calm voice, "Why?" "I haven't thought about it yet," Fang Yan said. "She can't go back with you anyway." Chapter 155. Qiang Long Tan narrowed his eyes at Fang Yan for a while and said, "You're an interesting young man. I won't change my mind even if you compliment me," Fang Yan said with a smirk. "Do I look like the kind of man who can be bought over with a few flattering words? But I don't get it. Chaoga is my daughter, and she's just been attacked. What's wrong with me taking her home to rest and letting my family take care of her?" Jiang Longtan voiced his reasonable doubts. What's wrong with that? He was Lu Chaoga's legal guardian. Although Lu Chaoga was an adult now, she was still registered in the national file system. If he wanted to take Lu Chaoga home as her foster father, everyone would support his decision. "She's your daughter and my girlfriend. She's half of my spine, the air and sunshine of my life." Just now, right under my nose, an off-road vehicle rushed over and almost took her away from me. Can you understand how I feel right now? Can you understand how I feel when I've lost her and found her again? I don't want to be apart from her for even a second. I want to keep an eye on her and make sure she's fine. Otherwise, I'll have nightmares at night. Lu Chaoga darted a strange look at Fang Yan and thought that he was the only one who could say something like that. Qiang Long Tan said after some hesitation, "That's a very convincing reason. Thank you for your consideration. But I'm still taking Chaoga with me," said Qiang Long Tan. At a time like this, what she needs most is her parents' company, not a bastard who's trying to take advantage of her. "Chaoga, shall we go back?" Lu Chaoga shook her head and said in a hoarse voice, I'm going back to school." This was the first time she had turned down Qiang Long Tan's arrangement. She had never done something like this before. Qiang Long Tan was stunned. He didn't expect Lu Chaoga to stand on Fang Yan's side so firmly. "It's quieter there," Lu Chaoga explained. "I understand." Qiang Long Tan nodded with difficulty. "Take care of yourself, Dad. How can you let him take Chaoga away?" Jiang Julu shouted, "This is a despicable and shameless person. When we came in just now, he was, 'Shut up.'" Qiang Long Tan snapped, "Go back." Qiang Long Tan shifted his gaze to Lu Chaoga again and said, "Shall we talk? Although I know that the timing isn't right and the environment isn't right, there are some words that I don't want to let pass the night." "Sure," Lu Chaoga said. The unrelated people all left, and the private room was cleared. Fang Yan took off his coat and draped it over Lu Chaoga's shoulders before he left as well. Qiang Long Tan only wanted to talk to Lu Chaoga. "Are you thirsty?" Qiang Long Tan asked. He went to the fridge in the corner of the private room and took out a bottle of cold water. Holding it in his hand, he said, "The water's too cold. Drink it later." Lu Chaoga didn't say a word. She only gripped Fang Yan's coat tightly, hoping to get some warmth. Qiang Long Tan found the remote control for the air conditioner and turned it on. The room quickly warmed up as the ambience was released. Only then did Qiang Long Tan sit down across from Lu Chaoga. Looking into Lu Chaoga's eyes, he said honestly, "I know. You blame me and you hate me." The surprise in Lu Chaoga's eyes flashed away, and she returned to calmness in an instant. This opening was too direct, and she was caught unprepared. "You've always suspected me. You suspect that your parents' death is closely related to me. You don't have to deny it. I know what you're thinking from the strange and wary look in your eyes. A long time ago, I wanted to find an opportunity for us father and daughter to sit together and have a good chat. I'll tell you my thoughts to clear up your misunderstanding of me. But I'm usually too busy with work, and so is yours. We don't have much time to eat together. I wanted to find a time to talk alone, but it's been delayed until now. Qiang Longten shook his head and smiled bitterly, saying, As a father, I've failed in my duty. I've let down your parents' trust. Actually, it's been so many years. Some things can't necessarily be explained clearly. What happened to your parents still pains me to this day. They were my best friends and talented business partners. Chaoga, you don't know business, so you don't understand how great their departure was for me and Longte Group. We haven't been able to recover to this day. Yes, we haven't been able to recover to this day. We could have done better. We should have been number one in all of Huaxia. But we used to be the world's leading biotechnology company, and now we're being surpassed by others. Can you understand how I felt back then? It wasn't just my hard work, it was your parents as well. We drank and talked so many times, and we were both filled with hope for the future. We said that we wanted to do our best, to be the best number one in the world. But because of their departure, I couldn't accomplish the goal I set on my own. They're very important to me, and just like you, I don't want to be separated from them. I didn't want to talk about it in front of you, because I thought it would be too cruel for you. You're just an innocent girl, and you shouldn't have to bear all that. You shouldn't have to bear all that pain. I hope that you can forget it, just remember it, but not be sad. I hope that you can become a member of the Jiang family. We'll do everything that parents should do for you. We'll give you everything that your parents can give you. I hope that we can take care of you and protect you for them. I hope that everyone can live a peaceful and happy life. Even if it's a little incomplete, everyone will still be happy. I hope that I can do that for you. Qiang Longtan unscrewed the cap of a bottle of warm water and handed it to Lu Chaoga. Why would I hurt them? If it's for the sake of profit, they can stay alive and help me lead the research team. Our Longte Group can become number one in Huaxia and number one in the world. Isn't that more beneficial to me? Lu Chaoga opened her mouth, but she didn't know what to say. He had this kind of ability. He could always see through your thoughts and accurately pinpoint your acupuncture points, making it impossible for you to have any thoughts of resistance. You're one with us. You're a member of the Jiang family, and also a member of our Longte Group. You're my daughter, Jiang Zhuliu's sister. I know that you don't want to marry him. If you don't want to, then don't. It's been so many years. When have I ever forced you? Have I ever said anything harsh to you? No, Lu Chaoga said. Renjin often said that they should be together, but Qiang Longtan had always been against it. Although you've never been to the company, you still hold 49% of Longte Group shares. This is the distribution plan that your father and I discussed when we founded the company. Your parents are gone, so you're their only legal heir. So, these 49% shares will automatically be transferred to your name. I've tried to persuade you many times. When you were in school, I told you to study business management so that you could take on more responsibilities in the company. After you graduated, I also persuaded you to work at Longte Group. You could be my assistant for the time being, and I'd teach you everything I know about management. What I said is still valid. Whenever you want to return to Longte, you can do so. I told you it's mine, and it's yours as well. Even Jiang Zhuliu isn't as influential as you are in Longte. I know there will be rumors, but they're just rumors. I've always ignored them because we're a family. Because we're a family, if we try to explain such a strange thing seriously, it'll pull the distance between us even further. Chaoga. Qiang Longtan looked at Lu Chaoga lovingly and said helplessly, I know you're not happy in the Jiang family, and I know you're under a lot of pressure. To be honest, I'm not happy either, and I'm under a lot of pressure. I've tried my best to be good to you, but I've found that it doesn't make us closer. Instead, it's like a double-edged sword that cuts you and makes you feel like you can't breathe. It also cuts me and makes me feel like all my efforts are in vain. Qiang Longtan looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, Chaoga, what do you think I should do? Tell me, what should I do? Jiang Longtu is usually strict, powerful, wise, controlling, and tolerant. It was as if there was no problem in the world that he couldn't solve, and he wouldn't change his expression even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. At this moment, Qiang Long Tan was anxious and exhausted, which was something he had never shown before. Lu Chaoga's mind was in a mess. What was the truth? What was the cause of her parents' death? Was it really because they met some local scum on a holiday and were killed by them? Where was her aunt? Could it be that her suspicion of the Jiang family and her hatred for Qiang Long Tan were all wrong? That they weren't the murderers she thought they were? Was that their concern for her genuine, and all those years of care were also genuine? Countless questions swirled in her mind, and she couldn't find an answer to them. Qiang Long Tan smiled and said, "You're suspicious because we haven't done a good enough job. Time will tell a person's heart. Don't be in a hurry to make a decision." "All right, I think that guy outside must be getting impatient. He doesn't look bad. He has the guts to resist my arrangements, which is much better than Jiang Zhulu. If he treats you badly, tell me, and I'll make him suffer too." Chapter 156. You shouldn't have come. Jiang Zhulu sat in the back seat and said calmly, "Why?" Qiang Long Tan had his eyes closed, and his voice wasn't very clear, as if he was in a half-asleep state. "Lu Chaoga suspects us. She has always thought that the Jiang family is the culprit behind her parents' death. She was attacked, and you immediately ran over. What would she think? What would others think?" Jiang Zhulu raised his doubts. "Oh, then tell me, what would she think? What would others think?" "Lu Chaoga thinks that you rushed over in a hurry to distance yourself from this matter, which is a blatant lie. The others probably have the same thoughts as Lu Chaoga." Jiang Zhulu analyzed. "Lu Chaoga is my favorite daughter. She was in such a big accident, and I received one call after another. If I didn't rush over, what would she think? What would others think?" Qiang Long Tan asked. This sudden incident had indeed pushed Qiang Long Tan into a dilemma. Just as Jiang Zhulu suspected, as soon as something happened to Lu Chaoga, he hurriedly ran over. It was as if he wanted to prove that he was innocent and that he wasn't the one who did it. However, if he didn't come, Lu Chaoga and the others would have other thoughts. His most beloved daughter had been in such a car accident, and so many people had called to inform him of the situation, but Qiang Long Tan didn't care. What was he running away from? Jiang Zhulu thought about it and said in annoyance, "So, the father and son of the Jiang family can't be good people? Whether we did it or not, we can't get rid of the suspicion." "Yes," Qiang Long Tan said. "That's too much. Who bullied you?" The difference between a good chef and an ordinary chef is that they can control the degree of cooking, the degree of heat, and the degree of seasoning. If a big fire is too bad, a small fire will make it better. If it's too tasteless, it's too salty and hard to swallow. Qiang Long Tan said. Jiang Zhulu looked into his father's eyes and asked, "What do you want to say?" "I've acted." Jiang Zhulio's expression instantly became stiff. Lu Chaoga's clothes had been soaked by the rain, and her whole body was in pain. It was difficult for her to even walk normally. Under the arrangement of the middle-aged police officer, the two of them made separate statements, and then they were released to rest. Fang Yan wanted to send Lu Chaoga to the hospital, but Lu Chaoga refused. She just wanted to go back, take a bath, change into clean clothes, and have a good sleep. She just wanted to go back, take a bath, changed, and have a good sleep. The school gave this house to Lu Chaoga and Lu Zhuge Hat. The school gave this house to Lu Chaoga, but Lu Chaoga had never lived in it. She didn't want to waste the space, so she planted a lot of flowers and plants in the yard. Sometimes when she was really bored, she would come here quietly and cut a pot of flowers or cut a few pieces of grass to give her body and mind a place to relax and rest. Later, Fang Yan appeared. Because of his innovation, he offended Li Mingqiang and the others, so he didn't even get a single room in the school. In order to buy people's hearts, Lu Chaoga offered to lend him the house temporarily. After Fang Yan moved in, Lu Chaoga didn't come here easily to avoid arousing suspicion. Soon, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan also moved in. Fang Yan parked the car in the parking lot, then quickly walked over to open the door of the back compartment. Lu Chaoga sat in the seat and couldn't move. Several times, she wanted to stretch her legs, but she twisted her ankle and waist. She was in so much pain that she gasped. I'll carry you, Fong Yen said. No need. Lu Chaoga refused. Although it was late at night, there would still be teachers and students in this area. If Fong Yen carried her back and met familiar teachers or students, they wouldn't be able to clear their names even if they jumped into the Yellow River. Do you have any other choice? As Fong Yen spoke, one of his hands had already reached under her calf, and the other hand was holding her waist. With a little force, he lifted Lu Chaoga's voluptuous body. I'm doing this for your own good. Fong Yen closed the car door with his foot, then pressed the lock button on the key and walked quickly to the small courtyard where they lived. Whatever he said would happen, and what he feared would happen. Fong Yen and Lu Chaoga were afraid of meeting any acquaintances. They didn't expect to meet Li Mingqiang, who was also coming out of the parking lot when they just got out of the parking lot. Lu Chaoga buried her face in Fong Yen's chest, pretending that no one could recognize her. Fong Yen couldn't avoid it, so he could only smile at Li Mingqiang awkwardly. Li Mingqiang was stunned for a moment. Then he walked quickly to Fong Yen and asked, Mr. Fong, did you just come back from outside? What's wrong with Principal Lu? Are you okay? Lu Chaoga really wanted to die this time. Fong Yen also felt that this old guy didn't know how to speak. At this time, couldn't you pretend that you didn't recognize who this woman was? Did you have to expose him in public? Principal Lu's leg was injured. He can't walk, Fong Yen explained. Injured? Is it serious? Do you want to send him to the hospital? Li Mingqiang asked with a worried face, as if his important family was injured. Fong Yen looked at him with doubt, and immediately understood his mind. Fong Yen was able to negotiate with Zheng Tiancheng successfully, thanks to the video provided to him by Li Mingqiang's son, Liang. At that time, Liang recorded the video just to please Zheng Guodong, but he didn't expect to be interrupted by Zhu Jian, who suddenly rushed in by mistake. At that time, the scene was too chaotic, and Liang forgot about the video. Later, when the incident broke out, and Zhu Jian was wronged and left, Liang didn't dare to take out the video. For some reason, he didn't destroy the video. Later, on the top of Xinxia Mountain, Zheng Guodong, Liang, and Chen Tao were killed, and Fong Yen went down with a rattan rope to rescue them one by one. From that time on, Liang and Chen Tao's attitude towards Fong Yen changed, but because of this, there was a gap between them and Zheng Guodong. The distance between the three people was getting farther and farther. After Fong Yen found Liang and Chen Tao, he did some ideological education work, and Liang finally gave the video to Fong Yen. At that time, he gave Fong Yen a 500G hard disk. When Fong Yen took it, he was shocked, thinking that Zheng Guodong was so heartless that there was so much evidence in the hands of Liang. Later, when he opened it, he found that it was just a video of a few minutes. Out of the same mentality, he walked into Zheng Tiancheng's office with a 500G hard disk. When Zheng Tiancheng took the hard disk, his heart was probably beating very fast, right? Although Fong Yen didn't admit it, it wasn't difficult for Zheng Tiancheng and Zheng Guodong to guess the source of the video. Li Mingqiang lost Zheng Tiancheng's trust, and his position as the head of teaching was in jeopardy. Zhu Jian, who had been expelled from the school, returned in a high-profile manner and became his assistant. This arrangement made him even more worried. Therefore, it was a very urgent matter to find another life-saving thigh to hug. However, in the whole of Rosefinch Secondary, did he have any other choice? Now, it was not strange that he treated Fong Yen and Lu Chaoga like this. It's not serious. I just need to apply some medicine, Fong Yen said. Lu Chaoga didn't say anything. Since she didn't say anything from the beginning, she might as well keep silent. If she spoke at this time, it would be easier to fall into an awkward situation. Yes. Hurry up and apply the medicine. Li Mingqiang said. I have some golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder at home. It is said that it was personally made by the Dr. King Qin Luo, using wild golden chrysalis. I will go back and get it. You help Principal Lu apply it. With Principal Lu's character and appearance, it would be a pity if there was a scar on his leg. This is a big deal, and it can't be delayed. Fong Yen could not reject the other party's good intentions. Moreover, if Li Mingqiang could stand on Lu Chaoga's side from now on, it would also give Lu Chaoga a big help in Rosefinch. Besides, Fang Yan did O Liang a favor. Thank you, Director Li, Fang Yan said with a smile. We are all colleagues, no need to be polite. Li Mingqiang waved his hand and said, You send Principal Lu back to rest. I will go back and get the medicine. I will send the medicine to you later. After Li Mingqiang finished, he trotted to the front. Fang Yan shook his head gently. Everyone's life was not easy. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan had already had dinner and were doing the routine standing training in the yard. Seeing Fang Yan coming in with a woman in his arms, both of them were surprised. They hadn't seen each other for a while, and junior martial uncle's behavior was so open. Fang Yingying hurriedly greeted him and said, Junior martial uncle, do you need my help? Yes, Fang Yan said. With Fang Yan's affirmative answer, Fang Yingying hurriedly ran over to help Fang Yan carry Lu Chaoga. Fang Yan turned around with Lu Chaoga's body in his arms, avoided Fang Yingying's kindness, and said, Help me close the door. Ah! Fang Yingying was stunned for a moment. Just this? He was stunned for a moment, and hurriedly ran over to close the courtyard door. Fang Yan came to the living room with Lu Chaoga in his arms. Looking at her wet clothes, he said, Take a bath and change your clothes first. When Director Li comes, I will help you apply the medicine. Since he has the golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder, we shouldn't refuse his kindness. After saying this, he realized that the real problem had appeared. Lu Chaoga couldn't take a bath, and there was no change of clothes. Chapter 157. Lu Chaoga's ankles and waist were injured, and it was very difficult for her to walk. How could she bathe in the bathroom standing up? Although this house was designed as a villa, the designer didn't equip every bathroom with a bathtub. As for changing clothes, it was even more lacking. Lu Chaoga hadn't lived here before. Fang Yan, Fang Yingying, and Fang Haohan were all men. They were willing to contribute their own clothes, but Lu Chaoga had to be willing to wear them first. Fang Yan looked embarrassed. He thought that he should have let her go back with Qiang Long Tan. However, since he snatched her today, he had to be responsible for her. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, Bathing is not a problem. I can help you. But there are no suitable clothes for you at home. Well, I will ask Fang Yingying to go out and buy them for you. What size clothes do you wear? Do you need to buy underwear and panties? Yes. Tell me the number so I can buy suitable clothes. Fang Yingying was very happy. After coming out, not only could he see beautiful women, but he could also buy underwear and panties for beautiful women. It was still more promising to follow junior martial uncle. Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yan strangely, but she didn't answer his question. You look at me like this. Do you not want to answer, or are you embarrassed to answer? Fang Yan thought for a while and said, It seems that you are embarrassed to answer. It doesn't matter. We have a lot of contact. I also have some superficial understanding of your figure. I will go out and buy clothes for you later. It shouldn't be too far off. Lu Chaoga still didn't speak. She didn't know what to say. Such a private topic of women made her very embarrassed. On the other hand, even if she felt that this topic was weird, she couldn't refuse it completely. She really needed a clean set of clothes to change out of her drenched, torn clothes. Li Mingqiang came very quickly. Not only did he bring along the golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder made by the physician king, he also brought along 2 old ginsengs. It was said that it would take 100 days for the tendons and bones to recover. Since Principal Lu was injured, he needed to eat something nutritious to nourish his body. Not only did Principal Lu need to nourish his body, but Fang Yan also felt that he should nourish his brain. Recently, he had been doing too much brain work. He felt that his IQ was not enough. Therefore, he accepted Li Mingqiang's kindness very quickly. This made Li Mingqiang worry that Fang Yan would refuse the gift, so the words he had specially thought of were completely useless. You wouldn't know how to deal with a man who was too forthright. Fang Yan took the ointment box, opened the cap, and sniffed it. Inside was a brown herbal ointment with a strange animal scent. It looked really good. The smell is very pure. The aroma of the golden chrysalis assails my nose. It is much stronger compared to the ones sold in the market, Fang Yan said with a smile. It should be made by the physician king himself. Even if it's not, This golden chrysalis is the real deal. Li Mingqiang, who usually gave the impression of being serious and inflexible, had a smile on his face. He praised, "Mr. Fong, you have good eyesight. This thing was given by a friend with a very high status. It's rare to see it outside." After confirming the authenticity of the ointment, Fong Yan squatted down and lifted Lu Chaoga's calf and placed it on his knee. He gently stroked it with his fingers and asked, "Does it hurt here?"
No.
"Here?"
No.
"Here?" "It's very painful." Fong Yan carefully massaged the part where Lu Chaoga was in pain. After she gradually adapted to this level of contact, he suddenly lifted her heel up. Kacha! A crisp sound was heard. The dislocated part of Lu Chaoga's ankle was fixed by Fong Yan. "Ah!" Lu Chaoga screamed. She frowned in pain and was sweating profusely. "It's fixed," Fong Yan said. "Although I don't have the skill of the physician king, it's not difficult for me to fix a bone." He took a large ball of ointment from the ointment box and put it in his palm. Then, he covered the injured part of Lu Chaoga's foot with it and gently massaged it again. He didn't stop until her skin turned red and the ointment was completely absorbed. Fong Yan looked at the wounds on Lu Chaoga's leg and other parts of her body and said, "Take a bath first. I'll apply the ointment on your body after the bath. After the ointment, you can have a good rest." Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Okay." Li Mingqiang was shocked when he heard that Fong Yan was going to apply the ointment on Lu Chaoga's body. He had heard that there was an affair between Fong Yan and Lu Chaoga before, but he didn't believe it at all. The senior management of the school knew something about Lu Chaoga's background. With the great master of the Jiang family standing behind him, who dared to compete with him for a woman? But now he had to believe it. Had the relationship between the two developed to such an intimate level? He quickly reflected in his heart. He shouldn't have offended Fong Yan too much, right? Li Mingqiang felt that he couldn't stay any longer. Wouldn't he be disturbing others who were busy with their business if he stayed? He hurriedly said goodbye to Lu Chaoga and Fong Yan and said, "Principal Lu, take a good rest and recuperate. Put aside your work first. If there's anything I can do for you, don't be polite to me." This was a show of loyalty, so Lu Chaoga had no choice but to respond. Whether it was to accept or reject, she had to show him her attitude. Lu Chaoga looked at Li Mingqiang and nodded. "Thank you, Mingqiang. I still need your support in my work in the future." Li Mingqiang's eyes lit up. He looked 10 years younger all of a sudden. He said excitedly, "Principal Lu, this is what I should do." His position was saved. From today onwards, he was Lu Chaoga's man. After Li Mingqiang left, Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yan and asked, "Do you think he can be used?" "He couldn't before, but he can now," Fong Yan said. "He used to be Zheng Tiancheng's man. With such a thick thigh to cling to, he naturally wouldn't put us in his eyes. But now the person who wants to kick him away the most is Zheng Tiancheng. So, he can only cling to your thigh." "Cling to your thigh," Lu Chaoga said. To be able to successfully negotiate with Zheng Tiancheng and send his son to the juvenile detention center, it either proves that you have a background, or you have something on Zheng Tiancheng. What reason does he have not to stand on your side? "He is our thigh," Fong Yan said with a smile. "Rest for a while. I'll go buy clothes for you. After buying clothes, I'll help you bathe, or you can ask Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan to help. I'll wait for you to come back," Lu Chaoga said while gritting her teeth. She secretly regretted it. Why did she agree to come back with this scoundrel? Fong Yan smiled and said goodbye to Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan. He asked the two brothers to take care of Lu Chaoga and then went out to do some shopping. Fong Yingying ran to Lu Chaoga and said, "Principal Lu, do you want some water?" "Thank you," Lu Chaoga said. "Thank you. Do you want to drink it or not?" Fong Yingying asked. Lu Chaoga felt depressed and wanted to vomit blood. She heard these two guys called Fong Yan and Junior Martial Uncle. It seemed that they were from the same sect. What was the saying again? If you're not a family, you don't enter the same door. Their character was so despicable. Seeing that Lu Chaoga didn't speak, Fong Yingying urged, "Principal Lu, you have to give a definite answer. Do you want to drink it or not?" "Yes," Lu Chaoga said. Fong Yingying turned around and shouted, Hero, pour water. So, the dull Fong Haohan really ran to pour water. The chubby Fong Yingying still stood in front of Lu Chaoga and refused to leave. He asked innocently, Principal Lu, are you the leader of Junior Martial Uncle? We're friends too. Junior Martial Uncle's friend. That's our little martial aunt. Fong Yingying said happily. Little martial aunt, can you find us a job? You see, Hero and I are so big. It's not a good idea to stay at home all day, right? Lu Chaoga collected her thoughts and looked at Fong Yingying seriously. She asked, What do you want to do? I can't teach Chinese, mathematics, and English. Fong Yingying thought about it and said, How about I teach physical education with Fong Haohan? We're good at it. Do you have a teacher's certificate? Lu Chaoga asked. Fong Yingying shook his head and said, No. Do you have a bachelor's degree?
None.
I can't help you, Lu Chaoga said. Fong Yingying's face was full of regret. He said, You see, it's not that I don't want to find a job, but the employment situation is too serious. You can't despise us for following Junior Martial Uncle to eat and drink. Why should I despise you? Lu Chaoga asked curiously. Fong Yingying looked at Lu Chaoga as if he was looking at an idiot and said, You were carried back by Junior Martial Uncle. Aren't you our little martial sister-in-law? If you become our little martial sister-in-law, won't you despise Junior Martial Uncle for taking care of us who can't rely on ourselves? Many women will despise us. I never thought of despising you. I never thought of becoming your martial sister-in-law, Lu Chaoga said. Are I really close to Fong Yen to this extent? Everyone who sees them thinks they should be a couple? Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan looked at each other, and they both grinned. Fong Yingying said, I'm relieved to hear that. Actually, Junior Martial Uncle is a good person, but I don't think he's worthy of you. He has no sense of responsibility and likes to avoid some things. Fong Haohan followed up. Chapter 158. When Fong Yen came back with big and small bags of shopping, he felt that Lu Chaoga looked at him with a strange look. Fong Yen thought that Lu Chaoga was embarrassed to let a man buy this kind of underwear for her. He said with a smile, It doesn't matter. You will get used to it in the future. Fong Yen thought about it and felt that there was something wrong with what he had said. Get used to it in the future. Was she used to letting men buy underwear, or was she used to letting herself buy underwear and underwear? It was estimated that Lu Chaoga didn't like either. However, he didn't dare to dwell on this problem. He said, Come, let me help you to take a bath first. Lu Chaoga sat still and asked calmly, How do I wash? She couldn't let Fong Yen help her take a bath, but if Fong Yen didn't help her, she couldn't take a bath. This was really a very complicated and headache-inducing problem. I will move a chair in. I will help you adjust the water temperature first. You should be able to sit on the chair and wash slowly, right? After experiencing so many things tonight, Fong Yen didn't have the mood to joke, so he reported his ideas truthfully. Okay. Lu Chaoga was very satisfied with this solution and nodded. Fong Yen first put a wooden chair under the shower head in the bathroom, then carried Lu Chaoga to the chair in the bathroom and asked, Is this okay?
Yes.
Lu Chaoga looked at the layout of the bathroom and tried not to look at Fong Yan's eyes. Then I will go out first? Okay. Call me if you need anything, said Fong Yan. When Fong Yan came out, Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan were looking in the direction of the bathroom. What are you two doing? Fong Yan whispered to avoid being heard by Lu Chaoga, who was taking a bath inside. Otherwise, she would have thought that someone was peeping outside. Fong Yingying jogged over and said with a smile, Junior Martial Uncle, I have a very important question to discuss with you. What problem? Fong Yan asked. How are you going to sleep tonight? Fong Yingying asked. How do I sleep? Whoever sleeps with whom? Who's sleeping with who? Fong Yingying explained even more clearly. Fong Yan stared at Fong Yingying and said, What do you mean? Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan looked at each other. Fong Haohan continued to pretend to be a corpse in silence. Fong Yingying had no choice but to say, Junior Martial Uncle, we only have 2 rooms with 2 beds. And then? I'll share a room with Fong Yingying. Then, you and Principal Lu, will you also sleep in the same room? How is that possible? Fong Yen said angrily. Principal Lu and I are just colleagues. It can also be a simple relationship of sleeping in the same bed.
Pa.
Fang Yan slapped Fang Yingying's head and said angrily, Fang Yingying, how can you have such an idea? Why are your thoughts so wretched? The men of our Fang family practice martial arts and are indomitable. They are the real heroes who protect the country. I didn't say that I can't be wretched. Fang Yingying said with a sad face while holding his head. Besides, this problem is urgent. We must solve it as soon as possible. Otherwise, when Principal Lu comes out, where will we put her? There is another solution. You sleep in a room alone. Principal Lu will sleep with us. You will definitely not agree. Fang Yan stared at Fang Yingying and sneered. Fang Yingying had a bad premonition and said, Junior Martial Uncle, what do you want to do? Fang Yingying, when you and Fang Haohan first came, didn't you say that you only need a place to stay?
I can satisfy you of that.
Not only can I let you stay, but I can also let you sleep. I don't care if you sleep in the living room or on the roof. Anyway, you have to give up your room. Fang Yan said very strongly. Junior Martial Uncle, you know that Fang Haohan and I don't like to take a bath. Our room smells. It's not suitable for you or Principal Lu to sleep in. Fang Yingying wanted to save the situation. It doesn't matter. Principal Lu will sleep in my room, and I will sleep in your room. My nose is stuffed recently, so I probably can't smell anything. If it doesn't work, I can put 2 moon grass pills into my nostrils to purify the air. Junior Martial Uncle, it's decided. Fang Yan said. After listening to Fang Yan's decision, Fang Haohan was very dissatisfied with Fang Yingying. He said in a low voice, Who asked you to speak ill of Junior Martial Uncle behind his back? Now you are getting what you deserve. Fang Yan's eyes were cold, and he said angrily, Fang Yingying, what did you say about me? Fang Haohan, shut up. Fang Yingying felt that he was going crazy. Don't be afraid of a godlike opponent, but be afraid of a pig-like teammate. Fang Haohan, you idiot, no matter how good your knife skills are, you can't just wave the knife and stab randomly. Don't you know that people will die? After stopping Fang Haohan from speaking casually, Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan with a flattering face and said, Junior Martial Uncle, how dare I speak ill of you behind your back? Just now when you went out to buy things, Fang Haohan and I casually chatted with Principal Lu. I said that although Principal Lu is beautiful, has a very elegant temperament, a good character, is talented and capable, and knows how to be filial to her parents. But if she wants to be with you, she always feels that something is missing. What is missing? Fang Yan asked. Domineering. Fang Yingying said. Miss Ye's domineering attitude that if you are not convinced, I will beat you until you are convinced. Fang Yingying. Fang Yan stared at Fang Yingying fiercely and said, That kind of despicable, shameless, barbaric, and violent behavior can be considered domineering? Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan timidly and did not dare to speak. I asked you a question. Fang Yan said angrily. Tell me, is her behavior considered domineering? It is quite domineering. Fang Yingying braced himself and said, Although I have not fought with Miss Yi, it makes my blood boil just watching from the side. Junior Martial Uncle is so powerful, but he was beaten away by her. Fang Haohan stabbed again. Everyone says that she is the #1 master in Jianghu. Fang Yan's face turned white, then red, then purple, and finally returned to its natural color. Fang Yan looked at Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan expressionlessly and said, I haven't checked your homework for a long time. Tonight, each of you will practice the plum blossom steps 50 times, and you are not allowed to sleep until you finish. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan's expressions were aghast. Fang Yingying said hurriedly, Junior Martial Uncle, it will be dawn by the time you finish the plum blossom steps 50 times, if that's the case. Fang Yan sneered. Doesn't it solve the problem of who sleeps who? Fang Yan. Lu Chaoga called Fang Yan's name in the bathroom. I'm coming, Fang Yan replied. They couldn't afford to set up a mourning hall or buy a tomb. There was only an incense table and a black and white photo for people to worship at the door of the rented house. The sparse number of guests came, offered an incense stick, and left after saying a few words of comfort without any warmth. No one was willing to stay for too long. He was just a small security guard. Who would really take him seriously? He was alive and unknown. Even if he died, he couldn't make any waves. This was the fate of most people in the world. Because Lu Jinju was a migrant worker in Huaqing, he had no relatives here. A middle-aged woman cried on the bed, her voice sad and heart-wrenching. A white-haired old woman with swollen eyes was leaning against the corner of the wall. She could no longer make any sound. She was holding a little boy who looked like he had just turned 1 month old tightly in her arms. The little boy was also affected by the surrounding atmosphere. He opened his mouth and screamed. Lu Jinju brought his wife to Huaqing to work to earn money. Lu Jinju's wife got pregnant and gave birth. Lu Jinju's mother came to help take care of the child. Like countless ordinary families, they lived ordinary lives. They were poor and bitter, but when the child cried, laughed, and screamed, it was all their happiness. Lu Jinju died, leaving behind a house full of orphans and widows. The sky was falling. A fat woman wearing a checkered shirt stood at the door and cursed. She shouted with a sharp voice, "You bunch of country bumpkins. What does the death of your family have to do with me? If they're dead, then they're dead. Throw them far away and bury them. What right do you have to set up a mourning hall in my house? You unlucky people, hurry up and move out. Scram as far as you can. I won't refund your deposit. You messed up my house like this. If people find out, how can I rent out my house? Move out immediately. You have to move. If you don't move, I'll get someone to move it for you. Hurry up and move all those broken things away. I feel bad just by looking at them." A middle-aged man wearing a white shirt stood beside the woman. He was comforting her softly, but the woman in the checkered shirt ignored him. She continued to curse loudly. Her sharp and harsh voice told Lu Jinju's wife and mother to move out quickly. Whoosh! A handful of money suddenly appeared in front of the woman. "If they can't shut you up, I'll stuff them into your anus." A cold voice rang in the woman's ears. Chapter 159. The woman in the checkered shirt opened her mouth wide in surprise. She looked at the handsome man in the suit and leather shoes in front of her in disbelief. Although the content of his words is very rude, but the way he gives money is really handsome. The woman thought in her heart. This man was simply her idol, Prince Charming. Of course, probably all women like this kind of idol, Prince Charming, right? Why do you want to give me money? The woman asked vigilantly. She liked money, but she knew that not all money could be taken away casually. Moreover, from the way these men dressed, she could tell that they were not so easy to provoke. I said, "I want you to shut up immediately," the man said coldly. "After taking the money, immediately get out of here, as far as you can. Don't let me see you again." Lu Shu, what is there to say to this kind of woman? Jiang Zhulu came over, glanced at the middle-aged woman with disdain, and said, "Quickly send her away." "Aren't I doing this?" Lu Shu said. When Jiang Zhulu and Lu Shu were responsible for clearing the place, Qiang Longtan, who was surrounded by his secretary and bodyguards, went straight into the rented house. He glanced at the environment of the house. The living room, bedroom, and kitchen were all connected together, piled up in this small single room that was less than 30 square meters. The bedsheet was worn, and the pillow revealed the black cotton inside. In the corner, there was a rolled-up straw mat. It should be someone who wanted to sleep on the floor at night. On the table, there was a half plate of cold cucumber and a small plate of stir-fried vegetables with shredded pork. Those were the leftovers that they were not willing to throw away. Lu Jinju worked in the most high-end restaurant in the city, but the place he lived was so narrow and shabby. The appearance of Qiang Longtan and the others finally attracted the attention of the two women in the room. They looked at the extraordinary Qiang Longtan in the middle of the crowd with astonishment, and wondered when Lu Jinju knew such a big shot. Could it be that he was Lu Jinju's friend? They knew that it was impossible. Lu Jinju was just a small security guard. How could he be qualified to be friends with such a person? Qiang Longtan stood at the door and bowed deeply to the two women. Then he went to the old man's side and sat down, holding the old man's old and withered hand, and said, "Old man, please restrain your grief. Take care of yourself in any case." The old man looked at Qiang Long Tan and asked, "Who are you?" "I am Lu's friend," Qiang Long Tan said. "My name is Qiang Long Tan, River Dragon Pond." The old man thought for a moment and said, "I've never heard Zhuzi mention that he has a friend like you." "Actually, I've never met him before," Jiang Longtan said. "Your son is a very great man. He saved my daughter's life. If it wasn't for him, my daughter might have met with misfortune." "Your son is a great man. He saved my daughter's life. If it weren't for him, my daughter might have met with misfortune." "I don't know what to do to make you feel better. I just hope that you can get out of this as soon as possible. It's not a good way to go on like this. Your bodies can't stand it." The old man couldn't help crying and shouted, "My son, why is your life so bitter? Xiao Bao is still so young. How do you expect us orphans and widows to live? What will happen to Xiao Bao in the future?" Qiang Long Tan held the old man in his arms and hugged her shoulders. He let her tears and snot smear on his expensive suit jacket. He comforted her, "Old man, don't be like this. Please restrain your grief. My grandson is still young. There is still a long way to go. I hope you can live well. Let's all work hard to let our grandson grow up healthily. Let him go to the best school and let him have a bright future. This is what Lu wants to see, right? He must want his son to become a pillar of the country. Dad is gone. What will happen to Xiao Bao? How will he live in the future?" The old man shouted hoarsely and was extremely sad. "There is us. And us. We will be Xiao Bao's family in the future," Qiang Long Tan said, as if he was making a promise. He glanced at the secretary standing next to him and shouted, "Secretary Li." The middle-aged woman in a white uniform immediately came over and handed a prepared envelope to Qiang Long Tan. Qiang Long Tan put the envelope in the old man's hand and said, "Old man, this is a small gift from me. There is a CITIC Bank card in the envelope. There is 1,000,000 yuan in it." The old man's crying stopped abruptly. The woman lying on the bed also looked at Qiang Long Tan with a dumbfounded expression. She couldn't believe what she heard. 1,000,000 yuan? He actually gave them 1,000,000 yuan? 1,000,000 yuan. What kind of concept was that? Lu Jinju's monthly salary was 2,100 yuan. If they wanted to earn 1,000,000 yuan, they would have to live for decades, even if they didn't eat or drink. "Why did you give us so much money?" the middle-aged woman asked in a dry voice. "Because of guilt. Although Xiao Lu is gone, I hope you can live a life without worrying about food and clothing. Your child also needs money to grow up. Raising Xiao Bao well was Xiaoyou's greatest wish. It's also ours." Qiang Long Tan glanced around and said, "Pack up and get ready to go back to your hometown. If there is any problem you can't solve, Secretary Li will help you solve it." Jiang Latin patted the old man's hand and said, "Old man, I still have a lot of work to deal with, so I won't bother you anymore." With that said, he led a large group of people to go outside. Soon, those luxury cars quickly disappeared in this damp and crowded slum. Fong Yin looked at Lu Chaoga strangely and said, "You really have a good father. He did everything you wanted to do." Lu Chaoga was silent. She just quietly looked at the two poor women in the room who were at a loss and the baby who was still crying in their arms. That's not enough, Lu Chaoga thought in her heart. They got the compensation, but that life was gone just like that. He was killed by a car crash. This was intentional murder. Then, blood must be paid with blood. She looked at Lu Jinju's honest, smiling face on the wall and said to herself in her heart. Fong Yan's heart was also very uncomfortable. The man who felt special because he said sorry to trouble you, the filial man who had two dimples when he smiled. He said goodbye to the world in such a hurry? You bastards, how can you harm people like this? You set up a mourning hall in my house. If others know about it, how can I rent this house? Do you have a conscience? Move out quickly, move out immediately. The man in the checkered shirt rushed to the door of the rented room again to scold and drive them away. "Shut up!" Fong Yen roared angrily. Chapter 160. They live in my house. The checkered shirt woman looked at Fong Yen cautiously and said, "I know. They put dead people's photos in my house. I can't rent out my house in the future because of the bad smell. I know. You want money, right?" Fong Yen asked. "I'm not asking for money. I just want them to move out as soon as possible so they don't affect my future rent. They won't leave now." Fong Yen looked at the woman's fat face and said, "Their relatives just left, and there are still a lot of things to deal with. They won't leave, and they can't leave. At least not for the time being. Then I won't give you money either." Fong Yen said, "You've scolded them for so long, and I can only promise not to hit you for the time being. No one wants to suffer this kind of inexplicable abuse, and no one has the right to attack others. Every time you scold them, it's equivalent to them returning the favor for occupying your house. The more you scold them, the faster they will return it. You might even owe them a lot in the end. At that time, I don't mind helping them collect the debt. Do you want to continue scolding them, or do you want to buy a watermelon from the fruit store across the street to quench your thirst?" The checkered shirt woman opened her mouth, but she didn't dare to continue scolding. She was afraid that Fong Yen would ask her for money. She angrily glared at the two women in the room, turned around and walked towards the corner of the street. When the checkered shirt woman came over, Secretary Li had been watching coldly from the side. She wanted to see how this young man would drive this woman away. Throw money at her like a willow tree? Or hit her with his fists like a hooligan? Reason? She was afraid that this kind of money-hungry shrew wouldn't accept this kind of negotiation method. The more gentlemanly you were, the more she would take an inch. She didn't expect that he would use such a strange transaction. What an unpredictable guy. Secretary Li thought in her heart. After the checkered shirt woman left, Secretary Li reported to Lu Chaoga, "Miss Lu, Mr. Lu has just compensated that woman a lot of money." Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Insatiable greed." She limped to Lu Jinju's wife and said, "I want to say sorry to you, but I also know that it doesn't mean anything to you. What happened doesn't mean it's over. I promise Lu Jinju, and I promise you again now, I will find out the truth, and I will make the murderer suffer the most miserable and cruel treatment. I promise I will do it. As a woman, I know how difficult it is for you right now. Therefore, I will do my best to help you. I'm not trying to express my guilt towards you. I just want to let Lu Jinju leave in peace. Do you want to stay in Huacheng or return to your hometown?" The middle-aged woman thought about it and said with red eyes, "I want to stay in Flower City. I have to work." Xiaobao had to study and live in the city. This is Zhuzi's wish and mine. I don't want Xiaobao to be like his father in the future. He doesn't have to be a security guard because he's uneducated, and he can't hold an umbrella for others because he can't get wet. Zhuzi is very motivated, but he's very pitiful. "I understand," Lu Chaoga said. "I will get someone to prepare a house for you. It won't be very big, but it will be very close to your workplace. I will give you a job that suits you. I will give you a year of paid leave. You can adjust your emotions and raise your child in this year." After a pause, Lu Chaoga continued, "I will transfer Xiaobao's file to the Longtu Group's senior employees file system. He can enjoy Longtu Group's medical and accident insurance, and he can enjoy Longtu Group's education and entrepreneurship fund. In other words, all of his school fees will be covered by the group. After he finishes his studies, he can use the entrepreneurship fund provided by the group to start his own business. Of course, if he has the ability, he can also stay in the group to work. This is what I can provide for you." Thump. The middle-aged woman jumped off the bed and knelt in front of Lu Chaoga. She hugged Lu Chaoga's calf and cried, "Thank you. Thank you, Miss Lu. Thank you. I will take good care of Xiaobao. I will make sure that Zhuzi will have no regrets. Such kind people." The old lady who was hugging her little grandson was also in tears. "Thank you all for your kind people. I will pray to Bodhisattva every day so that Bodhisattva can bless you with a long life." It was not convenient for Lu Chaoga to bend over, So Fong Yan quickly squatted down and pulled the middle-aged woman up. Secretary Li walked in front of Lu Chaoga and said, "Miss Lu, Mr. Jiang asked me to escort them back. Did you hear that?" Lu Chaoga pointed at the middle-aged woman and said, "She wants to stay. She wants her child to live in Huaqing. She wants her child to receive a better education in Huaqing. I will help Lu Jinju fulfill his unfulfilled wish." Secretary Li smiled awkwardly and stood to the side without saying anything. As the car slid on the highway, Lu Chaoga, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly said, "Is it fair?"
What?
Fong Yan, who was driving, did not understand what Lu Chaoga meant. "It's not fair." Lu Chaoga sighed softly. Lu Chaoga had many injuries on her body. In addition to the inconvenience of walking, there were also many cuts on her face. She had no choice but to take a few days off from school to rest at home. At the very least, she had to wait until the wounds on her face were better. Otherwise, when she went to the office, people would think that Lu Chaoga and Fong Yan had a conflict and started fighting. After the car stopped, Fong Yan quickly walked to the back seat and helped Lu Chaoga out of the car. Just as they were about to return to the courtyard where they lived, a surprised shout came from behind. Fong Yan. Fong Yan turned around and saw his grandparents standing not far away, looking at him. The person who had just shouted was his grandmother. Grandpa was carrying a shopping bag in his hand. There were vegetables and meat in it. They should have just come back from shopping at the supermarket. "Grandpa, Grandma, did you go shopping?" Fong Yan asked with a smile. Grandma walked quickly to Fong Yan, but her eyes were smiling at Lu Chaoga. She said, "Where did you two go?" "Principal Lu is not feeling well. I sent her to the hospital," Fong Yan said. Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yan with dissatisfaction and thought, "I didn't go to the hospital. Who wants to be told that they went to the hospital?" Grandma was anxious and asked with concern, "What's wrong with little Lu? Where is it?" "Io. What happened to little Lu's face? How did you get hurt like this?" "I accidentally fell," Fong Yan said. Lu Xiaoga did fall, but it wasn't an accident.
He was pushed down by him.
Of course, he couldn't explain the details to Grandpa and Grandma. There were many things that could only be borne by young people like them. Grandma got closer and looked at the wound on Lu Chaoga's face carefully. She said, "Why does it look like it was scratched by someone?"
"No,"
Fong Yan said with a smile. "Who dares to scratch our Principal Lu?" Grandma's eyes changed when she looked at Fong Yan. She asked with a serious expression, "Fong Yan, tell me, did you do it?" Fong Yan had a feeling of being hit by a stick. "Grandma, are you my biological grandmother? How can you doubt your grandson like this? How could your grandson do such a thing? How could I have the guts? How dare I shave Principal Lu's face like this? Fong Yan, how could you do such a thing?" Grandma said angrily. "The Fangs taught you to fight all day, but didn't they teach you how to read and write? Our Lu family is a family of scholars. Respecting women is the most basic virtue. You actually used force on a woman. Can you still be considered a man?"
"Grandma, I didn't."
Fong Yan hurriedly explained. He didn't dare to bear the bad reputation of hitting a woman. His grandma was a talented student in Peking University's Faculty of Arts. She was a famous feminist when she was young. Grandfather Lu had such a strong personality, but in private, he was also tamed by her to be docile and obedient. If he left such a bad impression in her heart, he wouldn't be able to raise his head in front of her for the rest of his life. More importantly, he wouldn't be able to eat the food she cooked in the future. "How could I hit a woman? I like them so much." "You ask Principal Lu. You ask Principal Lu what's going on?" Grandma looked at Lu Chaoga and asked, "Little Lu, tell me, what's the matter with the injury on your face? Did Fong Yan shave it?"
"No,"
Lu Chaoga said. Look, Fong Yan was amused. "How could I do such a thing? Fong Yan only pushed me down. That's why I got hurt," Lu Chaoga said. Fong Yan's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I pushed you down to save you. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. Fong Yan, you really disappoint me." Grandma was furious. She looked around, grabbed a bunch of green onions from the shopping bag, and hit Fong Yan's head. How could you do such a thing? Why did you push little Lu down? This is worse than shaving your face. Grandma, you misunderstood. Fong Yan explained while covering his head. He felt that he was really wronged. How could a woman like Lu Chaoga stab him at this time? Weren't they close comrades and partners? I misunderstood you? Grandma slapped him even more vigorously. Little Lu said it himself. What kind of misunderstanding can there be? Lu Gong's face was also embarrassed and he scolded. A man who hits a woman will never have a bright future. Lu Chaoga. Fong Yan roared angrily. Little Lu, don't speak up for him. Grandma held Lu Chaoga's hand and comforted her. If you don't teach him a lesson, he'll be even more lawless in the future. Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yan and said, he pushed me down to save me. Chapter 161. Grandma looked at Fong Yan, then looked at Lu Chaoga, and asked in confusion, Little Lu, what's going on? You don't have to be afraid of him, just tell me the truth. Grandma will stand up for you. Fong Yan pushed me to the ground and scratched my face. Lu Chaoga said leisurely, he did it to save me. The green onion in Grandma's hand fell to the ground. Did she hit her grandson for nothing? Did it really have nothing to do with Fong Yan? Fong Yan was finally saved. He stared at Lu Chaoga angrily and roared, Lu Chaoga, why did you accuse me? Lu Chaoga looked at Fong Yan expressionlessly and said, did I say anything wrong? Fong Yan thought about it. Lu Chaoga really didn't say anything wrong. Grandma asked her if she scratched her face, and Lu Chaoga answered yes. That was the truth. Grandma asked her how she scratched her face, and she said she pushed her down and hurt herself. That was also the truth. He pushed her down and hurt himself because he wanted to save her. That was also the truth. She didn't lie, and she answered all the questions truthfully. But, girl, can you say everything in one breath? How can you play with people like this? Seeing Fong Yan's angry look, Grandma patted his arm again and said dotingly, you child, what's there to be angry about? Little Lu was just joking with you. Do you need to be so angry? If you were an insignificant person, would Little Lu joke with you? Fong Yan was so wronged that he was about to cry. Grandma, are you my grandma or Lu Chaoga's grandma? Isn't it too obvious that you're biased? Stingy men are also useless. Lu Gong's eyes were on the flowers and plants on the roadside, and he said stiffly, Okay. Grandma won't ask about you young people's business anymore. Grandma pointed to the shopping bag in Lu Gong's hand and said, I saw some fresh hairy crabs in the supermarket, so I bought a few of them. I was just about to call you to ask you to come home for dinner tonight, and now we just happened to bump into each other. Chaoga, you too. Grandma, I don't think that's necessary. Fong Yan refused. Principal Lu's injuries are serious. We'll have to apply medicine for her later. It doesn't matter. You can take Chaoga to my place first, and then you can go back and get the medicine. I have plenty of rooms at my place, and you can apply the medicine there, said Grandma with a smile. Principal Lu, you can't eat seafood. I also bought lean meat and white fish. It's just a meal. Why are you being so wishy-washy? Lu Gong's gaze finally shifted to Fong Yan's face as he said impatiently. After scolding Fong Yan, he looked at Lu Chaoga with a gentle expression and said, Xiao Lu, let's have dinner together. I have something to talk to you about. Sure, Principal Lu. Lu Chaoga agreed without hesitation. So, Lu Gong led the way with his hands behind his back, and Grandma looked at Fong Yan and Lu Chaoga with a smile. Fong Yan couldn't resist, and had to help Lu Chaoga walk toward his grandparents' house. Why did you do this to me? Fong Yan complained in a low voice as he walked at the back with Lu Chaoga's help. Grandma had indeed hit him in the head, and his face smelled of garlic. Did I? Lu Chaoga asked. Of course, she wouldn't tell him the reason. On the night of the tragedy, he picked her up rudely and threw her on the sofa, which made her already seriously injured body even worse. He grabbed her shoulder and questioned how long she was going to use him. When she took off her clothes in the shower that night, she found that there was a large purplish-red fingerprint on her shoulder. What was even more hateful was that the second before the police broke the door, he suddenly threw himself at her and kissed her lips when she was caught off guard. She was the vice principal of Rosefinch Secondary and her superior. If she didn't teach him a lesson, where would her dignity be? You did it on purpose, Fong Yen said fiercely. Let's see who will help you in the future. The corner of Lu Chaoga's mouth curled up into a charming smile, but it disappeared in a flash. Fong Yen had just settled Lu Chaoga on the sofa in the living room when Grandma urged, Fong Yen, go back and get the medicine for Xiaolu. You can't delay it. Grandma, actually it's okay to apply it after dinner, Fong Yen said perfunctorily. Lu Chaoga did need to apply the medicine, but the time to apply the medicine was after the shower every night. He just didn't want to listen to Grandma's nagging, so he found an excuse to refuse to come here for dinner. At this time, he really didn't want to go back to get the medicine for nothing. How can that be? Grandma pulled Fong Yen up from the sofa. Hurry up and get the medicine. This is a big deal. What if I get disfigured because of the delay? When Fong Yen left helplessly, Lu Gong looked at Lu Chaoga and said, How's the school work? It's fine, Lu Chaoga said. That's good. Lu Gong nodded with relief. Is it difficult? Everyone takes care of me. Communicate more. They will understand, Lu Gong said. I'm not good at communicating. That's why I invited you back. I won't disappoint the old principal's expectations, Lu Chaoga said. This is the expectation of the whole school, Lu Gong said. Fong Yen, he's young and impulsive. He's smart, but he's lazy and lazy. You have to urge him more. I will, Lu Chaoga nodded. If he bullies you, Lu Gong thought about it and said, Tell Grandma. Fong Yen is very good, Lu Chaoga said. She understood the deeper meaning of the old principal's words. As long as you say it's good, Lu Gong said. He stood up and said, I'll go check the kitchen. As soon as Lu Gong entered the kitchen, his wife grabbed his arm and glanced at the living room. She whispered, Is Fong Yen really together with little Lu? Lu Gong said with a straight face, What's there to be surprised about? Little Lu is good. It's Fong Yan's good fortune to be able to be together with her. He found a treasure, his wife said. I'm just afraid that Fong Yan doesn't know how to cherish it and does things that make people angry. Why are you, an old woman, getting involved in the matters of young people? Lu Gong said with his eyes wide open. You're not getting involved? I'm not getting involved. Lu Gong turned around and was about to leave. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and said, Have a good talk with that brat. Tell him to be more mature in the future. Damn old man, you're so stubborn. Grandma grinned. King Longtan's office was very simple. As the chairman and the actual controller of the Longta Group, his office conditions were worse than some of the deputy directors in the group. He was even worse than some department managers. The office space was less than 30 square meters. There was a wooden desk and a wooden chair. Behind him was a row of bookcases against the wall. The bookcases were filled with all kinds of books. Other than that, there was nothing else. Most of the time, King Longtan would sit in his office and read. When he read the most interesting parts of the book, he would pick up his pen and make comments in the middle of the book. Since King Longtan loved books, the company's senior and middle management liked to read as well. Moreover, they all liked to borrow books from King Longtan. King Longtan did not reject any of them. Of course, King Longtan had a rule. When borrowing a book, he would specify the return date. After reading the book had to be returned on a regular basis. Then, everyone would discuss the content of the book together. It was a happy and harmonious atmosphere. Whether this habit of borrowing books was sincere or just to please, only the person involved would know. The senior management of the Longta Group knew that there was only one senior manager who had not borrowed a book from King Longtan. That was Lu Jing, the chief engineer of the Research and Development Department. Lu Jing was a veteran employee of the Longta Group. It was said that when the company had just started, there were only 9 people in the company, and he was one of them. The others were either the general managers of major departments, or the capable ones who had been promoted quickly were now the deputy directors of the company. Of course, Lu Jing was not doing badly. For an energy company, the Research and Development Department was the core industry of the group. It was the most important department. All the other departments were actually serving the research and development department. Therefore, Lu Jing did not borrow books from Qiang Longtan. Although everyone felt that he was a little pedantic or even an idiot, Qiang Longtan had never expressed any ill towards him. His position was as stable as Mount Tai. As Qiang Longtan was reading a reference book, The History of Huaxia written by the Japanese, someone knocked on the office door. "Come in," Qiang Longtan shouted without raising his head. His gaze was still on the open page of the book. The office door was pushed open silently. Secretary Li walked in and said, "Chairman Jiang, Lu Gong wants to talk to you." "Lu Zheng?" Qiang Longtan closed the book and said, "He's a rare guest.
Let him in."
"Yes," Secretary Li replied, turned around and left. When the office door was pushed open again, a middle-aged man in a white coat appeared in front of Qiang Longtan. His face was full of sideburns, and his hair was messy, as if he had not washed it for a month. Lu Jing closed the office door behind him and stood at the office door, chuckling. This scene was both surprising and strange. A company's senior management had entered the boss office, but he did not say a word and only grinned foolishly. What kind of logic was this? "Chairman Jiang, I'm here to borrow a book from you," Lu Jing said with a chuckle. Crash! Qiang Longtan pushed the chair away and stood up. He looked at Lu Jing with a serious face and said, "Old Lu, what do you mean by this? Aren't you slapping my face? Qiang Longtan? We've known each other for so many years, and you're playing this game with me?" Lu Jing still chuckled and said, "I can't help it. These days, if you want to be promoted, get rich, and save your life, you have to say a few good words and stuff your head in your pants. What else can I do?"
"Lu Jing, what do you mean by this?"
Qiang Longtan shouted sternly. Chapter 162. Lu Jing wasn't intimidated by Qiang Longtan's anger. He kept that infuriating smirk on his face and said sarcastically, "What do I mean? In order to save my little life, I came to flatter you, Jiang Longtan, just like those other fellows who borrowed books from you to get promoted and become rich. What's wrong with that?"
"What?
Am I not good at flattery? Or am I not polite enough? Is that why you're not going to lend me books? I used to be the only one who didn't want to borrow books from you, but now I'm the only one who doesn't want to borrow books from you. It'll be interesting if people hear about it." Qiang Longtan stared at Lu Jing coldly and said, "What? Are you suspecting me of what happened to Chaoga? Who else could it be?" Lu Jing didn't bother to hide his emotions, and his dark beard quivered as he spoke. Who benefited the most from Lu Mingtu's death? Now, if Lu Xiaoga were to die, who would benefit the most? The one who benefits is the murderer. Is there a need to doubt that? "Lu Jing, don't slander me," Qiang Longtan bellowed. "The three of us have known each other for a long time, and I see you and Mingtu as my best friends. I've never tried to profit from my friend's death. I'm sad about what happened to Mingtu, but I had nothing to do with it. Plus, you know what happened to the company back then, don't you? Mingtu died so suddenly that we had to put our research and marketing plans on hold for the time being. It was a huge loss for me as well. What did I gain? What did I gain?" "Of course you did," Lu Jing sneered. "How big was Longtu Group back then? How big is it now?" At that time, Longtu Group was jointly owned by you and Lu Mingtu. Now, it has become the Jiang family's private property. If this isn't a benefit, then what is? The reason why the Longtu Group has developed to such a scale today is because I, Qiang Longtan, have been working hard and doing my best for so many years. It's also because countless Longtu people have fought by my side and contributed selflessly. The Longtu Group's current achievements are due to luck, and it's inevitable. This is the reward for the hard work of me and all the people of Longtu. Qiang Longtan, I know you're eloquent, and I can't win against you. I just came to tell you something. I can stop pursuing what happened to Lu Mingtu. I can't do anything about it, but I'm warning you, don't touch Lu Chaoga. If anything happens to Lu Chaoga, I won't forgive you." Lu Jing pointed at Qiang Longtan and threatened. "Impudent!" Qiang Longtan roared. "Lu Jing, do you know what you're doing?" "Of course I do," Lu Jing said. "I also hope you know what you're doing." "Lu Jing, Chairman Jiang, do you have anything else to say? You're fired, Qiang Longtan said. Lu Jing looked at Qiang Longtan and laughed. He laughed so hard that tears and snot came out of his eyes. Qiang Longtan, oh Qiang Longtan, I knew you're not a good person. Lu Jing pointed at Qiang Longtan and laughed so hard that he almost couldn't breathe. You hypocrite, you really are a villain. You're a butcher who talks about morality and loyalty. You're a kind-hearted killer. You got rid of Lu Mingtu in order to monopolize power. Now, in order to cover up your crimes, you want to kick me away? Ha ha ha, you say we're your best friend and brother. Qiang Longtan, is this how you treat your best friend and brother? Lu Jing took out a folded piece of paper from the pocket of his white coat and walked in front of Qiang Longtan. He slapped the paper on Qiang Longtan's desk and sneered, Qiang Longtan, I know you're capable of doing anything. So, I've already written this resignation letter. You don't need to kick me out, I'll resign myself. Now, can I leave? Scram. Qiang Longtan pointed at the door and shouted, You're on your own. Lu Jing stared at Qiang Longtan with disdain and said, Remember what I said, if anything happens to Lu Chaoga again, I don't care if you did it or not. I'll put it on your head. Lu Jing strode out of the office, knocking against the door with a loud bang. Secretary Li pushed the door open and came in, asking with concern, Mr. Jiang Lugong, it's okay. Qiang Longtan waved his hand and said, He has some misunderstandings about me. Let him calm down. The sky was dark and the rain was hazy. This kind of weather was suitable for daydreaming with a cup of latte in a cafe, or sitting under the eaves of the corridor with a copy of Song Ci in hand. There was no need to think or do anything. Along with the drizzle, one's thoughts spread out to a boundless and limitless range. Uncle Lu, how could you quarrel with him? Lu Chaoga said with a face full of guilt. Because of me, you lost your job. I really don't know how to repay you. What's a job? Big Beard Lu Jing said angrily. Your mother and I were classmates and good friends with your father. The few of us came up with this creative project together, and we established a company together. When they got married, I was one of your father's 3 groomsmen. On the day you were born, your father and I waited at the door of the ward. How could I not feel bad when your parents met with such a disaster? How did I get through all these years? I wanted to leave Longtu for a long time, but I couldn't bear to. Longtu had my blood, sweat, and tears, as well as your parents' blood. This was the result of all of our hard work. Longtu is an egg. We personally turn the egg into a chick and watch the chick grow up day by day. I have feelings for Longtu. However, they had gone too far. I couldn't stop them from laying their hands on your parents in the past. Now they want to lay their hands on you. I can't take it anymore. If they don't succeed this time, they won't do it again? I might as well shed all pretense of cordiality with them and make them feel some fear. Otherwise, they will be even more lawless. Who can guarantee what they will do next time? Lu Chaoga sighed softly and said, Unfortunately, I don't have any evidence. You can't be too hasty with this kind of thing, Lu Jing said. It's been so many years. You were still young back then. What evidence could you have? So many years have passed. Even if there was any evidence left, it would have been cleaned up by them a long time ago. It's not that easy to find evidence. Uncle Lu, what should I do now? Lu Chaoga looked at Lu Jing and asked in a low voice. He was her elder and her parents' best friend. She was very lost now and needed someone to point her in the right direction. Get the shares back, Lu Jing said. They always put on a bodhisattva face, so you can't do anything.
What about themselves?
They're cruel and merciless. They're too much of a bully. They're heartless, so we have to be heartless too. You can't hide it anymore. Find a lawyer to negotiate with them and get back the shares that belong to you. You're an adult now, and have the right to take over all the shares in Longtu Group under your father's name. Fong Yen sat next to her and drank his tea, but he didn't interrupt. This was Lu Chaoga's family business. It wasn't appropriate for him to get too involved. Lu Chaoga hesitated and said, If that's the case, Chaoga, people are sinister. Lu Jing comforted her. I know. Qiang Longtan raised you for more than 20 years, and you have feelings for them. But how did they treat you? They wanted to kill you. Although we don't have any evidence, our feelings won't lie to us. Don't we already know who did this? I think it's better to be cautious, Fang Yan said with a smile. Qiang Longtan didn't say that he wouldn't give it to them. If Chaoga acts rashly, she might be used by someone with ulterior motives. Lu Jing stared at Fang Yan and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm Principal Lu's colleague," Fang Yan said. "Colleague?" Lu Jing was angry. He pointed at Fang Yan and said, "You're just Chaoga's colleague. What right do you have to make decisions for others? How can this be a child's play? You don't know anything. You don't know how urgent this matter is. I didn't say I was going to make decisions for him." Fang Yan explained, "I'm just giving you a suggestion. I'll bring it up and you guys can discuss it. If you think it's feasible, then do it. If not, then pretend I didn't say anything. How about I wait at the door for a while?" "Uncle Lu, Fang Yan can be trusted," Lu Chaoga said to stop the two men from arguing. "Fang Yan has a point. To be honest, my head is a mess right now. Who did this to my parents? Who wanted to hit me that night? There's no evidence, no clues. If I fall out with the Jiang family, it won't be good for them, but what good will it do for me? If I fall out with the Jiang family, it'll be a huge blow to Longta Group. Just like Uncle Lu said, Longta Group is your blood and sweat, and it's also my parents' blood and sweat. All these years, I've never done anything for it, but I can't tarnish its reputation." Soft-hearted, Lu Jing sighed. "Just like your parents. If your parents had listened to me back then, they wouldn't have died tragically in a foreign land." Lu Chaoga's face turned pale. She asked anxiously, "Uncle Lu, what do you mean by that?" If anyone knew the truth, the person in front of her would be one of them. Even Fang Yan's nerves were stirred by this sentence. Could it be that Lu Chaoga's parents had encountered the same difficult choice back then? If that was the case, then who had forced him into such a situation? Fang Yan felt that the fog was about to dissipate, and the twilight of the truth was waving at them not far away. Chapter 163. The raindrops were like pearls, falling densely, as if they would never stop. The banana tree in the corner was thick and vigorous. Its leaves, which were bigger than grass fans, were blown off by the strong wind. A few pots of cacti were still exposed in the rain, using their tenacious vitality to resist the bad weather. In this restless afternoon, there were bound to be some restless events. Lu Jing took a sip of tea, looked at the rain outside, and said, "This terrible weather. I wonder when the sky will be clear. People are going to grow mold." The two audience members, Lu Chaoga and Fang Yan, had no intention of continuing the conversation. They hoped that Lu Jing could quickly get to the point instead of talking nonsense. Lu Jing's expression became sad, just like the continuous rainy season that made people feel depressed. There are times when teeth bite the tongue, not to mention two men with different life backgrounds. When Longtu was first established, Qiang Longtan provided the capital, and your father provided the technology. Qiang Longtan held 51% of the shares of Longta Group, and your father held 49%. At that time, your father felt that he had too much and wanted to reduce his shares, but Qiang Longtan stopped him. Qiang Longtan told your father that this was a technical company, and that technology was the soul and life of Longtu. He said your father deserved more. Of course, it was their honeymoon period at that time. I heard these things from your mother, because I had not entered Longta Group at that time. You should know that the core project of Longta Group is the Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube is mainly used to support some high-tech projects, including ships, warships, or submarines. The Rubik's Cube is your father's work. Your parents had always wanted to commercialize the Rubik's Cube. They hoped to reduce its development costs so that it could be popularized in all aspects of people's lives. For example, computers, mobile phones, home televisions, and other electrical products that require energy. He hoped to bring about a revolution. A revolution to replace new energy sources. This is the great ideal and ultimate goal of every researcher. However, Qiang Longtan hoped to rely on it to get a super order from the military. He hoped to completely militarize the Rubik's Cube. In other words, he wanted to develop its power to the extreme, and as for the cost, the military would pay for it anyway. Then, the conflict between the two sides arose. It was when their argument was at its most intense that I entered Longta Group. I was personally invited to the company by Qianglong Tan. He hoped that there would be another scientist to compete with your father so that he would know his position and not blindly compete with him, the actual controller. For a long time, my relationship with your father was not harmonious. Your father was a stubborn man, and I was the person chosen by Qianglong Tan. I had to act. I had to act with him to gain his trust, but from the bottom of my heart, I agreed with your father's choice. The two of us even privately imagined the widespread civilian market of the Rubik's Cube and the impact it would bring to the world. We quickly became friends. Of course, your mother and I have been friends for a long time. Because the research on the Rubik's Cube has encountered a technical problem, both for civilian and military purposes, it can only be temporarily shelved. The relationship between Qianglong Tan and your father has been restored. There is no conflict of interest. In my opinion, they are even closer than before. If that's the case, Lu Chaoga clenched her fists. Why did they still attack them? I don't know. Lu Jing shook his head. Maybe there are a lot of details I don't know. I only know that after your parents worked overtime for several months, Qianglong Tan said they should go out for a walk. They chose to go to the place they always wanted to go and never came back. Silence. There was a long silence. Lu Chaoga's face was expressionless, but her hands that were holding the teacup were trembling slightly, as if she was going to crush the teacup in her hands. Fang Yan took the teacup from Lu Chaoga's hand and patted her knee gently. He looked at Lu Jing and said, "You also persuaded Principal Lu's father, Mr. Lu and Jiangzhu Lu, to part ways?" Lu Jing's face was a little unnatural as he said, "I did persuade him. Since everyone is not happy with each other, why do we have to eat in the same pot? With Mingtu's ability and the patent of the Rubik's Cube, he can do well anywhere." Unfortunately, Mingtu refused. He said that since he had chosen to cooperate with Qianglong Tan, he would not easily abandon his teammates. But did he choose the right teammate? He did not betray his teammates, but his teammates completely sold him out. "We still don't have any evidence," Fang Yan said aloud. "There is no evidence to prove that Qianglong Tan did it." Lu Jing sneered and said, "You haven't dealt with Qianglong Tan. You don't know how terrible he is." Evidence? How could you find evidence for what he did? Besides, if I had evidence in my hands, I would have reported Qianglong Tan long ago. Why would I need to swallow it for so many years? Fang Yan glanced at Lu Chaoga and said, "Principal Lu is in a bad mood now.
Give her a little more time.
Let her think about it again." Lu Jing looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "Chaoga, this is your business. You take care of it yourself. Uncle Lu doesn't mean anything else. I just hope you don't walk the same path as your father. Qianglong Tan is already diluting your father's shares with shell companies. If you act too late, I'm afraid there won't be anything left in your hands." "Uncle Lu." Lu Chaoga looked up at Lu Jing and said, "Can you help me?"
Me?
Lu Jing looked at Lu Chaoga in surprise. "I've always wanted to help you. I used to be able to provide you with some information, but I have no power or position now, and I'm just a stranger to Longta Group.
What can I help you with?"
Although you've resigned from Longta Group, you can be my representative. Help me set up a legal team and negotiate with Qianglong Tan. Help me get back everything that belongs to me. Chaoga, I've always been in the technical field and I really can't do this. You should find another trustworthy person." Lu Jing refused. His expression was sincere, and his tone was sincere.
"Only you," Lu Chaoga said.
"You're the only one I can trust and the right person to do this. Uncle Lu, I'm counting on you."
"Fine."
Lu Jing gritted his teeth and said, I don't know much about economics, but I know how to negotiate with Qianglong Tan. Thank you," Lu Chaoga said gratefully. After discussing the details, Lu Jing stood up and said goodbye to Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga couldn't stand up to see him off because of her legs. Fang Yan walked him to the gate of the small courtyard. Lu Jing opened the umbrella and said to Fang Yan, It's raining heavily outside. Let's go back. Fong Yen stood at the threshold and said with a smile, It's raining heavily outside.
Take care.
Let's go. Lu Jing waved his hand and walked into the rainforest. Because of the accumulation of rain on the ground, Fong Yen could clearly see that his shoes were soaked as soon as they touched the ground. Fong Yen closed the gate and walked back to the living room. He sat down next to Lu Chaoga, who was staring out the window in a daze, and said, Are you in too much of a hurry? Yes, I am, Lu Chaoga said. You believe that Qiang Longtan did it? Right now, all the evidence points to him as the target. Everyone is telling me that he's the murderer, Lu Chaoga said. Yes. Fong Yen thought for a while and said, It's like it's been arranged.
Yes.
It's like it's been arranged, Lu Chaoga said. It looks like the pot of water is about to boil. So I'll pour another bucket of oil into it. Let's see what kind of chemical effect it will have by pouring oil into boiling water. Fong Yan's body leaned weakly on the sofa, and he said, It must be wonderful, right? I hope that their patience isn't too good. I hope that they won't hide it for too long, Lu Chaoga said. I hope that it'll be a quick revenge. Lu Jing lived in an ordinary apartment in a residential area, which was very different from his status as a senior manager of Longta Group. After all, due to the popularity of the energy sector in recent years, even the income of some department managers was enough to buy a villa around Xixia Mountain. He parked his old Honda that he had driven for several years in the open-air parking lot below the apartment. Just as he was about to open the door and get out of the car, the phone in his pocket rang. He picked up the phone and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. After answering the call, he asked, Who is this? Did she agree? A man's voice came from the other side of the phone. She agreed. A hint of a smile appeared on Lu Jing's lips. Even the most vigilant cat has its moments of napping. Very good, the man said. I have a present for you. What present? Look up, the man said. Lu Jing was sitting in the car. The car did not have a sunroof, so he could not see anything when he looked up. So, he pushed the door open and took an umbrella from the back seat. Just as he was about to get out of the car to check, a large object fell from the sky. Lu Jing was still holding the large black umbrella in his hand. The umbrella cloth covered his entire body, and he could only tilt the umbrella to see the sky above his head. His eyes were narrowed into slits, and his beard was wet from the splashing rain. The sky was still dark, and the rain was already heavy. Rumble. Thunder roared, and lightning flashed. The blazing white lightning tore through the sky, lighting up the dark and oppressive sky like a bright lamp. With the help of that flash of light, Lu Jing finally saw clearly what the thing that was flying towards him was. It was the metal water tank that the property management company had installed on the roof to store water for the tenants. Yes, it was the large water tank that Lu Jing had once touched with his own hands. Chapter 164. The wind was howling, and the rain was pouring. The rain was getting heavier and heavier. Countless raindrops were like dense arrows, hitting Lu Jing's fat, pale, bearded face because he had been hiding in the studio for a long time to do scientific research. Everyone had been in the rain. Even if they sometimes felt it was cold, they rarely experienced the pain it brought. But this time, Lu Jing clearly felt it. His skin felt it, and so did his heart. The hair all over his body stood up, and every muscle in his body was stretched to the extreme. The rain was so sharp that it pierced thousands of holes on his face like a beehive.
Ah!
He opened his mouth, but he didn't know if he made a sound. It was like an art film with a muted sound. His ears had lost their hearing. In his world, there was only a moving picture, but there was no corresponding dubbing. The sound of the wind, the rain, and the rustling of the leaves all disappeared. He tried to raise his head. He wanted to see the man on the roof who wanted to end everything, but his vision was blocked by the water tank that was getting bigger and heavier.
Bang!
The water tank pressed his body under it, and at the same time, half of the car was flattened. The engine on the front of the car was sparking, which was his weak struggle and roar. But the wind and rain were fast, and the sparks were soon extinguished. Perhaps because of nervousness and fear, Lu Jing was still tightly holding the big black umbrella in his hand before he was smashed. When his arm was smashed by the water tank, the handle of the umbrella was also smashed. The umbrella cloth with the broken handle finally broke free, and it fluttered in the wind and rain. It was like a little black flower that was picked and abandoned by someone. Ga, because of the huge vibration, several cars in the nearby parking spaces screamed. The shrill sound of the alarm rang through the sky. A resident opened the window, poked his head out to look at the ground, and shouted in a sharp voice, "The water tank on the roof has fallen. Someone's car was smashed. Go and see whose car was smashed. Someone's dead. Someone come quickly." The black shadow on the roof took out a monocular. He opened the monocular and Lu Jing's bloody face suddenly appeared in front of him.
Horror.
Resentment. They also died, with their eyes wide open. Of course, to them, the most important thing was that Lu Jing had died thoroughly. The black shadow raised his hand to his forehead in a non-standard military salute, and then turned to leave this dangerous place that would soon become the second crime scene. Clang, the office door was knocked open. Jiang Zhulu anxiously shouted, "Lu Jing is dead." Lu Jing was crushed to death. Qiang Long Tan was standing in front of the office window, holding a book called Heart Sutra in his hands, softly reading it. His expression was calm and peaceful. "Dad, do you know?" Jiang Zhulu asked anxiously. "Lu Jing is dead. He had just run into your office and quarreled with you. You had just fired him, and he died." Qiang Long Tan closed the book, turned around and glanced at Jiang Zhulu. "I know," he said. "You." Jiang Zhulu looked at his father, who was so calm that it was almost eerie, and said, "You don't have any other reaction?" "What kind of reaction should I have?" Qiang Long Tan asked. "We've known each other for many years." "Lu Jing is a good person," Qiang Long Tan said. "He's one of the few friends I have. When Lu Mingtu died, I recited the Heart Sutra to him. Now that Lu Jing is gone, I also recited the Heart Sutra to him. I hope they can pass away peacefully, without any pain or conflict of interest in Elysium." "But aren't you afraid of the gossip outside?" Jiang Zhulu said, flustered and exasperated. "I just came back from outside. Many people are saying that this matter has something to do with you. They also said that I did it?" Qiang Long Tan asked calmly. "Yes," Jiang Zhulu said. "They said that you're cutting off dissidents. First, you got rid of Lu Mingtu, and now you got rid of Lu Jing. In order to achieve your goal of single-handedly controlling the Longtu group." Qiang Long Tan smiled and said, "If that's what I'm trying to do, isn't this a little too much?" Jiang Zhulio's face was ashen with anger, but Jiang Long Tan had a calm look on his face. It was as if the death of a person was just an insignificant matter. At this moment, he realized that compared to his father, who usually didn't talk much and kept silent most of the time, he was still too inexperienced. Jiang Longtan held the Heart Sutra and carefully stroked the rough surface with his palm. He said, They're forcing me. Dad, call Chaoga and tell her to come home for dinner," Qiang Longtan said. Lu Chaoga had injured her leg and had asked for a few days' leave from school. But Fong Yan's hands and feet were all right, so he had to go to class as usual. Fong Yan's Chinese class was now a beautiful sight in the school. Ever since Class 1 followed the trend and began to carry out situational teaching, the other Chinese teachers no longer put on airs and began to think of ways to make their classes more lively. They tried their best to arouse the students' interest in participating and improve their learning abilities. Moreover, the bet between Fong Yan and Class 1's language teacher, Zhang Yu, had been spread throughout the school by some people with ulterior motives. The students of the two classes would compete in the next final exam to determine their overall score and average score. The loser would have to read an apology written by the winner on the school radio. Zhang Yu was a well-known teacher at Rosefinch, while Fong Yan was the most popular teacher in the school. One was a model of old-fashioned teaching, while the other was a practitioner and promoter of fancy teaching. The final exams were in a week.
Who would be the real champion?
Who would win the real honor? This time, it wasn't just a competition between Fong Yan and Zhang Yu's abilities, but also a question of which was more suitable for survival, the traditional way of teaching or the new way of teaching. Most people favored Zhang Yu because Zhang Yu was a senior teacher in the school. More importantly, his students were the cream of the crop. In terms of overall quality, the students of Class 1 were far better than those of Class 9. Class 1 is doing a pre-exam simulation, and Zhang Yu has given us 14 test papers to help the students guess the questions. The students of Class 1 have been working very hard every day, and Zhang Yu has used a despicable tactic to beat us. Mr. Fong, don't we have to do anything? Huang Haoren asked worriedly. He was the language representative of Class 9, and since Class 9 had made a bet with Class 1, he naturally had to take the lead. Not only did he have to find a way to boost everyone's morale, but he also had to find out the opponent's actions and strength through various connections. However, while Class 1 was busy winning this competition, their Mr. Fong had no idea how to deal with it. It was as if what he had said that day was just a casual remark, and he had completely forgotten about it. Therefore, Huang Haoren had to take the initiative to communicate with Mr. Fong after class, trying to find out his true thoughts. Is there any meaning to it? Fong Yan asked with a smile. If you rely on doing your best to win this competition, have you really memorized all of it? Can you apply what you have learned? Can you turn this knowledge into a kind of culture, a kind of gene flow into your blood, and become one with you? We don't have to do anything. I believe you will be the final winner. Mr. Fong. Huang Haoren was touched. Okay, go back to class, Fong Yan said. Mr. Fong, don't worry, we definitely won't let you down. I said I believe in you. Fong Yan nodded. Oh yes, remember to pass on what I said just now to the students. When Fong Yan came back, Lu Chaoga was standing in front of the window looking at the scenery. She was expressionless, and there was something in her eyes that Fong Yan couldn't understand, but it made his heart palpitate. Fong Yan put away his umbrella and walked in front of Lu Chaoga, asking, "Why don't you go in and sit? Your leg hasn't fully recovered, so you can't stand for too long. What do you want to eat tonight?" "Lu Jing is dead," Lu Chaoga said.
What?
Fong Yan was shocked. At noon, they were still sitting together chatting, and he even walked him to the entrance of this small courtyard. He also told him to pay attention to the wind and rain outside. He only went out for 2 classes, and he hadn't even finished 1 article. How could a living person suddenly die? Was life so fragile? Fong Yan's expression became serious, and he said, "They are now crazy and have completely lost their minds." "They want me to lose my mind," Lu Chaoga said. "So, the more it is at this time, the more we need to stay calm." "Jiang Zhulu called and asked me to go home for dinner tonight," Lu Chaoga said. "Asking you to go home for dinner at this time proves that King Long Tan wants to have a showdown with you," Fong Yan said. "It's not convenient for you to go home for dinner at this time. Shall I go with you?" "Okay," Lu Chaoga said. "Come with me." Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen ran out of the room. Fong Yingying looked at Fong Yan and said, "Junior Marshal Uncle, shall we go with you?" "Okay, let's go together," Fong Yan said coldly. "Just think of it as improving our lives." Fong Yan turned to look at Lu Chaoga and said, "I heard that you rich people eat steak and drink red wine for dinner?" Chapter 165. The speed of the police investigation was extremely fast. In less than 24 hours after the accident, they had already found the car involved. They found the car in an abandoned factory compound. Of course, the driver who caused the accident had already escaped. That night, there was a heavy rain, which was the most natural cover. The rain had washed away many important traces, and even the tire tracks had disappeared. This had indeed increased the difficulty of solving the case. The car owner's information was also found. The car owner's name was Han Dongsheng, and he was the boss of a small construction team. He parked the car at the entrance of the construction site, and then stayed in the construction site to play cards with the workers. He had no idea that his car was lost, and he didn't know that his car had become an accomplice to a serious murder in the short period of time it was lost. Because there was a card player who testified for him, Han Dongsheng's suspicion of the crime was cleared. But who stole his car? This was still an unsolved mystery. The senior police officers in the police team compared the video that was taken when the car was driving. They found that the driver in the driver's seat was wearing a black shirt, a black hat, and a black mask. There was no way to restore his true appearance. Moreover, because the weather was too bad at that time, with the howling wind and heavy rain, the video was too blurry. It was difficult to even tell whether the driver was a man or a woman. "You can't find any clues?" Fang Yan asked. "We can't find any clues," said Wang Dazhong, who was in charge of the case. Because this case involved Lu Chaoge, Jiang Zhulu had informed the leaders of the Huacheng Municipal Public Security Bureau. With the pressure from above, the police officers didn't dare to slack off. They also gave full respect to Fang Yan and Lu Chaoge, who came to question the case. But this is only temporary. Because the car is only one of the clues, our people are also looking for suspects with a motive. The other lines are also following up at the same time. I believe that we will definitely catch the criminal as soon as possible and give Miss Lu an explanation. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoge, then said to Wang Dazhong, "I want to see the surveillance video of the crime scene, Sky 1. Is that okay?" Wang Dazhong looked troubled and said, I am one of the victims, and also a witness. Maybe I can give you some clues after watching the video, right?" Lu Chaoge glanced at Wang Dazhong and said, "Let him take a look." "All right then," Wang Dazhong said. "Let's watch the video together again. We've studied this video dozens of times." Wang Dazhong invited Fang Yan and Lu Chaoge to the reference room and instructed the staff to play the video of Lu Chaoge being hit at the entrance of Sky No. 1 Hotel on the big screen. From the moment the Toyota appeared on Sky 1's surveillance camera to the moment it mysteriously disappeared, only 2 seconds had passed. The content of the video flashed before their eyes. The parking lot was on the dimly lit side of the hotel, and the surveillance equipment was not advanced enough. The image they could see was indeed a blur. After watching the video, Fang Yan and Lu Chaoge felt that they didn't see anything. Yes, there was nothing. "Can you play it in slow motion?" Fang Yan asked. "Slow motion," Wang Dazhong said to the technician. So, the video, which was only a few seconds in total, was slowed down and stretched, and it appeared in front of Fang Yan again. "Stop!" Fang Yan suddenly shouted. The technician immediately pressed the pause button, and the image of the black Toyota that had just appeared in the camera was instantly frozen. It was dark, and the rain covered the glass, adding a layer of protective film to it, making it impossible to see the driver's face. Lu Chaoge, Wang Dazhong, and the elites in the criminal investigation team all stared at the picture, but they didn't see anything unusual. "Zoom in," Fang Yan said. "Zoom in on the driver's seat." The technician heard Fang Yan's words and immediately did the corresponding action. Because the picture was constantly zoomed in, the pixels were infinitely diluted, and the image that could be seen became more and more blurry. "Restore to the original state," Fang Yan said again. The technician adjusted the picture to the normal scale again. The pixels were clearer, but they still couldn't see anything strange. "Is there a problem?" Wang Dazhong asked doubtfully. "Look at the steering wheel," Fang Yan said. "What's wrong?" Wang Dazhong looked at the steering wheel of the car and said, "We have studied this 2-second video countless times. Did you find anything?" "There is only one hand on the steering wheel," Fang Yan said. "Only one hand?" Everyone's eyes were focused on the steering wheel. The technician also followed everyone's request to zoom in and out of the picture in that area, and then zoom in again and again. He kept repeating this action. Under Fang Yan's reminder, everyone found that there was indeed only one hand on the steering wheel. "Does this mean anything?" Wang Dazhong asked. "We all know that when a person is doing something very important, he or she will focus all of his or her attention on a single point, even if he is a professional killer. The wind is so strong, the rain is so heavy, the vision is so blurred, and the wheels may slip at any time. In order to improve the success rate of the mission, shouldn't he hold the steering wheel with both hands at the same time? He is a disabled person?" Wang Dazhong asked in disbelief. Their detective work had never gone in this direction. They never thought that a disabled person would have such a deep hatred for Lu Chaoge that he would insist on killing her with a car. "Yes." Fang Yan nodded. A disabled person. Rain was the city's natural cleaner. After a heavy rain, the whole city looked clean and green. Huachen was a little chilly in November. Lu Chaoga put on a long windbreaker. Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan put on sportswear, and Fong Yan tied a plaid scarf around his neck. He was not cold, but he felt that it was more artistic. Lu Chaoga still could not drive, so Fong Yan became her full-time driver. Under Lu Chaoga's guidance and the navigation, Fong Yan finally parked the car in front of the Jiang family's house. Hearing the car horn outside, the housekeeper opened the door. Seeing Lu Chaoga get out of the car, the housekeeper greeted her warmly. "Miss Lu, you're back. Madam didn't go out to play mahjong today. She's been waiting for you." Lu Chaoga nodded and walked to the living room with Fong Yan's help. Ren Jin was watching TV on the sofa in the living room. Seeing Lu Chaoga come back, she greeted her with a smile. "Chaoga, you're back. Auntie Ren." Lu Chaoga greeted Ren Jin with a straight face. "Chaoga, come sit here." Ren Jin walked up to Lu Chaoga, held her hand and said, "Let's sit and talk for a while. Your uncle and Zhu Lu are still at the company. They said that they have an emergency meeting. Chaoga, where have you been these days? Your uncle Jiang came back and said that you had a car accident and I was scared. Why didn't you come back to tell me about such a big thing like a car accident? Do you know how worried I was? Your phone is always turned off. It really makes me anxious. Are you hurt? You have a few cuts on your face. Are you okay?" It seemed that the Jiang family had been very kind to Lu Chaoga. Anyone who didn't know the inside story would never doubt that the mother and daughter weren't their biological daughter. "I'm fine," Lu Chaoga said. "That's good. I'm glad you're fine." Ren Jin looked relieved and said, "Chaoga, I don't mean to criticize you, but you can't do this again. You have to discuss it with everyone, and you can't bear it alone. Aren't we a family? Don't be so polite to us." "I will. This incident has also taught us a profound lesson. Chaoga, you have to be careful when you make friends from now on. Don't let anyone you don't know get close to you. In this world, there is no lack of those toads who want to eat swan meat, people who want to reach the sky in one step. It's too hard to work. Who doesn't want to reap without sowing? You can't judge a book by its cover. Some people are willing to do anything to achieve their ulterior motives. You're still young and inexperienced, so you don't understand. Some people lie for money, some for sex, and some for feelings. What's the point? It's all for their own financial ends." From beginning to end, Ren Jin didn't even glance at Fong Yan or Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan, who were standing on either side of him. She treated the three of them like they were invisible, and her attitude affected the nanny as well. According to the rules of the house, the nanny had to make tea for the guests as soon as they arrived, but should she make tea or not? Ren Jin ignored Fong Yan, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haohan, but when she chatted with Lu Chaoga, she attacked and condemned Fong Yan with every word she said. In her heart, Fong Yan was just a schemer who was like a toad lusting after a swan's flesh for no reason. For some reason, she was filled with hostility towards Fong Yan. Fong Haohan glanced at Fong Yan, then at Ren Jin. Taking Fong Yingying's arm, he said, "Hero, I'm hungry. I want to eat." "Then let's fill our stomachs," said Fong Yingying. Hence, Fong Haohan went over to the coffee table, picked up the glass that Ren Jin had been drinking tea from, took a big bite out of it, and started chewing. Chapter 166. Kacha, 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 no one spoke again, and they even forgot to breathe. In addition to the voice of a popular female singer who was singing passionately through the national talent show, there was only this creepy sound of eating glass. Moreover, the voice of the female singer had been completely ignored. There was only one rhythm and one sound in everyone's ears. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Ren Jin's eyes widened and her mouth opened wide, looking at the man who was chewing glass in disbelief. Was he really eating the glass that he used to drink tea with? How could such a thing be eaten? Wasn't he afraid of cutting his throat? The nanny's psychological endurance was even weaker. She pointed at Fong Haohan and trembled without saying a word, as if she had seen a ghost. It was also the first time that Lu Chaoga saw such a heroic side of Fong Haohan. She looked at Fong Yan with a surprised expression, thinking, what kind of strange people are this guy's friends? The most normal reaction was Fong Yan and Fong Yingying. They were used to Fong Haohen's behavior. Fong Haohen eating glass was not new, but Fong Haohen not eating glass was weird. Originally, Fong Yan thought that eating glass in other people's house was a very impolite behavior, but because Rin Jin was very rude to him, Fong Yan thought that it was a good thing to let Fong Haohen eat 2 glass of his. At least, Fong Yan felt very happy when he saw Rin Jin's shocked and scared expression at this moment. Fong Yan was a kind man. He couldn't stand others making him feel wronged. Kacha, after Fong Haohen ate a small half of the glass, the soaked tea leaves in the glass, and the small half of the cup of tea became a burden. Hero Fong thought for a moment, then tilted his head back and drank the tea in one gulp. Then, he poured the tea leaves into his palm and put them into his mouth, chewing noisily. Ren Jin's face turned green. This is the cup she used, this is the tea she drank. Is this rogue indirectly kissing me? You. How can you eat those tea leaves? Ren Jin said angrily. Fong Yan felt that this woman's perspective was really unique. She didn't care why others ate the cups, but she cared why others ate her tea leaves. Was it common sense that tea leaves were harder to digest than glass? It's okay.
Don't worry about him.
Fong Yan comforted her. Tea leaves are rich in polyphenol, amino acids, and catechins. They are good for the body. Kacha Fong Haohen stuffed the rest of the glass shards into his mouth. After chewing and swallowing, he wiped his mouth and said to Fong Yingying, I'm not full yet. Fong Yingying patted Fong Haohen's shoulder and said, leave some room for steak and fruit salad. Rin Jin felt that her heart was twitching. Listen, what are these 2 guys talking about? They ate my cup, drank my tea, and now they want to eat my family's steak and fruit salad. You. Ren Jin pointed at Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen and shouted, get out of here. Our family doesn't welcome you. Fong Yingying looked at Fong Haohen with a complaining look and said, I told you to bear with it. Look at how angry you are. Old lady, don't be angry, it's easy to get wrinkles when you are angry. How about we ask Junior Marshall Uncle to buy you a glass? Old lady? Ren Jin felt like she was struck by lightning. Everything else was ignored by her. Her mind kept repeating the 3 blood-red words old lady. Old lady? How could they call her old lady? She had beautiful black hair, pink skin, bright eyes, and she also had well-maintained buttocks and breasts. How could he call her an old lady? Rinjin's first reaction was to immediately find a mirror and look at herself in the mirror to see if there was anything wrong with her dress today. Otherwise, why would someone be so blind as to mistake a flirtatious mature woman like herself as an old lady? Fong Haohen, who was accused by Fong Yingying, felt extremely wronged and argued. Hero, you told me to eat something to fill my stomach. I did say that, but didn't you see the old lady was angry? Lu Chaoga. Ren Jin finally exploded. She shouted with a sharp voice and pointed at Fong Yan, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haohen and said, Who are these people? What kind of scoundrels are they? What did I tell you just now? Don't make friends with those people you don't know. You just brought them home to anger me. Lu Chaoga, I usually treat you well, and this is how you treat me? Do you want to anger me to death? Anti-Run, I didn't mean that. Lu Chaoga said.
Good.
You didn't mean that, did you? Lu Chaoga pointed at Fong Yan and said, Let him go. Let them all go. I don't want to see them. I want them to disappear in front of my eyes immediately. Anti-Run, they are my friends. Lu Chaoga said. Ren Jin calmed down. She stared at Lu Chaoga with burning eyes, and then looked at Fong Yan, Fong Yingying, and Fong Haohen as she sneered and said, I understand. Lu Chaoga, are you bringing people back to flaunt your strength? Anti-Run, I don't understand what you mean. Lu Chaoga said. You don't understand? Lu Chaoga, you don't remember, do you? I took you to have your IQ tested a long time ago, and I clearly remember your test results. You are such a smart woman. How can you not understand what I mean? Don't take things that happened when you were young seriously. Ren Jin said mockingly. That is to say, all these years of raising and taking care of you were fake.
I didn't mean that.
Lu Chaoga, it's not that you don't understand, it's that you don't have it. If you have the ability, say it frankly. Why are you hiding it? Don't worry, you brought these 3 clowns to protect you. I can't beat you in a fight, but I can't beat you in an argument. You are safe. Lu Chaoga looked at Renjin and asked a question clearly. How did my parents die? Renjin was speechless. Lu Chaoga said softly, It's useless to tell you. Lu Chaoga. Renjin looked angrily at Lu Chaoga and said, I understand. You have always hated us, always suspected us. You always thought that we killed your parents. Am I right? You suspect the people closest to you? Your mind is really vicious. No wonder you always put on a dead face. No wonder you always ignored us. No wonder you didn't want to come back after you went abroad. No wonder you didn't want to accept when I wanted to betroth you to Jiang Zhulu to make us closer. So it's because of this. So many years of love are going to be erased just because of your suspicion? Lu Chaoga, do you have a conscience? Are you cold-blooded and heartless to this extent? Lu Chaoga looked at Renjin and said, Aunt Ren, what do I have to say to make you understand? You don't have to say anything, I already understand. How do I express myself to make my counterattack more powerful? Lu Chaoga continued to ask. You do treat me well, but there's a hint of hypocrisy in your smile. You don't treat me well because you like me, but because of your status and reputation. I understood this a long time ago. How many times have you quarreled with Uncle Jiang because of me? How many times have you suspected that I had an improper relationship with him? You told everyone that I was the best candidate for your daughter-in-law. Didn't you want to cut off the possible relationship between me and Uncle Jiang? Do you think this is how you treat me as your own daughter? You are good to me, Uncle Jiang is good to me, Jiang Zhulu is also good to me, so my life should be arranged by you. What should be said, what shouldn't be done. It's all up to you. I wanted to study abroad after high school, but you all opposed it. Didn't you agree in the end? What kind of effort did I put in for this? Lu Zhaoga asked. You forcibly took me back from the United States. Did you care about what I thought? You forcibly arranged for me to be your daughter-in-law. Did you consider my feelings? Or do you care whether I like him or not? Yes, it's because you treat me well that I can't resist. Because my parents died early, I was raised and taken care of by you. I have to live for your wishes. Is that right? Do you understand how I feel? Every time you peel an apple for me, I will think about what you're going to ask for me. Every time you personally cook a bowl of noodle soup for me, I have to think about what kind of deal is behind this bowl of noodle soup. So, I don't want to talk more and more. My life is getting more and more depressed. Every day when I wake up, I feel that my skin is stiff, the air is thin, and even breathing is difficult. Annie Ren, do you know that I have depression? Do you know that I have seen a psychiatrist? Do you know that I have thought about suicide? Ren Jin's expression was dull. She really didn't know about this. Fang Yan was also stunned for a moment. The strong and cold Principal Lu actually had the thought of suicide? She also had such a weak moment? Even so, you still think that I don't know how to be grateful, and that I am heartless to you all. Lu Chaoga looked at Renjin like a knife and said, Auntie Ren, I think you don't understand what is called gentle violence, right? Chapter 167. Phew. After saying these words, Lu Chaoga took a long breath of fresh air. Too easy. Too comfortable. How many years had it been? The long days and nights. The days that felt like years. The words that she held back in her heart that were difficult to say. The thorn in her bone. Almost tortured her to the point that she was about to go crazy. She was like a silkworm cocoon wrapped in a thin membrane. She wanted to scream. She wanted to struggle and twist with all her might. She wanted to tear everything apart and destroy it, but in the name of love and protection, the thin membrane made it difficult for her to move. Finally, she said what she wanted to say. She was free. Renjin's face was as pale as paper. She stared at Lu Chaoga with deep resentment and said, I didn't expect that I still raised an ungrateful wolf. Well, Lu Chaoga, since our Jiang family made you so uncomfortable, since we treated you so badly, then tell me, what are you doing back this time? Uncle Jiang asked me to come back for dinner, Lu Chaoga said. Come back. Ren Jin sneered. Lu Chaoga, what do you mean by coming back? Come back to your own home, then come back. What you said just now has separated yourself from this family. You are no longer a member of this family. You are just a guest. And a guest who is not welcomed by the host. So, as the mistress of this house, please bring your lowly friends out. Fong Yan was angry and said, "We are Lu Chaoga's friends, but we are not dirty." Fong Yingying was also very angry. He slapped Fong Haohen's head and said, "Fong Haohen, go eat another glass." Fong Haohen looked at Fong Yan pitifully, not knowing whether he should eat or not. "Aunt Ren." "Don't call me Aunt Ren." Ren Jin angrily interrupted Lu Xiaoga's words and coldly said, "Lu Xiaoga, from today onwards, the kindness between us is severed. From now on, we are just strangers, Ren Jin." Lu Xiaoga clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. "Please respect my friend."
Get lost.
Ren Jin pointed at the door of the villa. "Get out, all of you." Ren Jin turned around and shouted at the nanny. "Are you stupid? Call security." "No need," Lu Xiaoga said aloud.
We can walk by ourselves.
After that, Lu Xiaoga turned around and walked out of the villa. Just now, when Ren Jin called them scum, Fong Yan did not retaliate. Fong Yan felt that he had suffered a loss. Now that he was about to leave, he naturally couldn't leave with a grievance. Fong Yan slapped Fong Haohen's head and shouted, "Fong Haohen, eat all the glasses in their house." Fong Haohen was shocked and said bitterly, "Junior Marshal Uncle, I'm afraid I can't eat." "Then pack it up and take it away." "That's good." Fong Haohen was happy. He really wanted to find the Jiang family's glasses to eat. "Let's eat." Ren Jin laughed wildly.
Eat.
"Eat enough. Eat it all. If you can't finish it, then you're a son of a bitch." "Junior Marshal Uncle," she's cursing, Fong Haohen said. "Then hit her." Fong Yingying shouted. So, Fong Haohen rushed toward Ren Jin angrily. "Go ahead." Ren Jin stood there proudly, raising her beautiful face that could be broken by a single blow. She looked at Fong Haohen with a sneer and said, "Slap me if you can." Fong Haohen was stunned. He turned to look at Fong Yan and said blankly, "Junior Marshal Uncle, did I really slap you?"
Slap.
Fong Haohen was slapped in the face. After Ren Jin slapped Fong Haohen, she stared at Fong Haohen with disdain and said disdainfully, "Who do you think you are? Get out of here." Lu Xiaoga stopped at the door of the living room. The smile on Fong Yan's face froze. Fong Yingying's fat face was quickly filled with anger. "Bitch, I'll tear you apart." Fong Yingying flew into a rage. He and Fong Haohen were like brothers. Their relationship was much deeper than ordinary people. Hero Fong was bullied and humiliated. This slap in the face was more painful than slapping himself in the face. Fong Yan smiled gloomily and said, "A real man must do what he says." After listening to Fong Yan's words, Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen were like tigers and wolves that were released from their shackles. They angrily rushed toward Ren Jin.
Slap. Slap.
Hiss. The two slaps were the sound of Fong Yingying slapping Ren Jin. Hiss was because Fong Haohen, this simple and honest person, actually reached out and grabbed Ren Jin's long skirt. With just a light pull, the shoulder strap was split into two. Half of Ren Jin's shoulder was exposed to the air. It was snow white and smooth like a young girl. The purple bra strap left a clear flesh mark on her smooth and tender back. It made people look like they were full of the desire to conquer. Time stopped at this moment. Lu Xiaoga's mouth was round and round. She looked at this scene in disbelief. The muscles on Fong Yan's face twitched. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at Ren Jin's sexy shoulder and the equally sexy bra strap. "I just said it casually. Why did you really tear it?" Fong Yingying trembled with excitement. This man, Ren Jin's expression was the calmest. She was angry to the extreme, so she was calm to the extreme. She stood there with a face full of arrogance. She stared coldly at Fong Haohen and said, "Tear. Continue to tear." Fong Haohen looked at Ren Jin's eyes. He felt that this woman had a strong power that he couldn't see but could feel. Lu Xiaoga came over and put the silk scarf on Ren Jin's shoulder. She said, "My friend didn't do it on purpose." I think he probably didn't expect such a thing to happen. She turned to look at Fong Yen and said, "There are video surveillance cameras in all the public areas of this villa." There were surveillance cameras? If Rin Jin insisted that Fong Haohan was plotting against her, it would be really difficult for Fong Haohan to clear his name. Fong Yen quickly jumped out to explain and said, "Yes. Fong Haohan is a bit stupid. He usually likes to do stupid things. Which normal person would eat a glass? Isn't there something wrong with his brain?" Lu Chaoga glanced at Rin Jin and said, "Since we are unwelcome guests, my friend and I will leave first." Lu Zhaoga turned to leave, and Fong Yen quickly walked over to support her, who was still walking unsteadily. Fong Haohan looked at Ren Jin timidly and said, I didn't expect your clothes to be so fragile. They were torn with one tear. I didn't mean that. Let's go." Fong Yingying grabbed Fong Haohan's arm and said. Fong Haohan turned around and looked greedily at Rin Jin, who had an inviolable expression, and said, "She is so beautiful. I want to find a wife like her in the future." Fong Yan and Lu Chaoga had just walked to the small courtyard of the villa. Before they had time to get into the car, the door of the villa opened again. Clatter, the electronic door extended to both sides, and then the black Bentley stopped at the gate of the courtyard. The bodyguard in the passenger seat quickly got out of the car, and Jiang Zhulu got out, followed by Qiang Long Tan, the chairman of the Longta Group. Qiang Long Tan saw Lu Chaoga standing by the car and said with a smile, "Did Chaoga just get here?" "I'm going back," Lu Chaoga said. "Go back." Qiang Long Tan was surprised. "Didn't we agree to have dinner together tonight? I rejected several social engagements just to come back and have a good meal with you."
"What?
You don't want to give me this chance?" I told her to leave. Ren Jin appeared at the door of the living room with a silk scarf draped over her shoulders and said, "They are unwelcome." "Nonsense." Zhang Longtan scolded. "Zhaoga is our family. She's our family. How could she be unwelcome?" Ren Jin looked at Qiang Long Tan with a sneer on her face and said, "Qiang Long Tan, even if you dig out your heart and liver and feed them to them, it's just like throwing a meat bun at a dog. If you're interested, I have a recording of what she said just now. You can listen to it carefully. You treat her as your family, but she thinks that your home is a prison and wants to run away immediately. Let her go. If she becomes depressed or commits suicide again, who will bear the responsibility?" Qiang Long Tan turned his eyes to Lu Chaoga and asked her if what she said was true. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, "Uncle Jiang, let me go. I don't want to have dinner with her. I don't think anyone has an appetite now." Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan both wanted to say that they had an appetite. They had been busy for half a day and were still hungry, but Fong Yen stopped them with a look. They swallowed and didn't say anything in the end. Jiang Longtan heaved a deep sigh and said, "Family harmony brings prosperity to all things. I'm responsible for the mess at home. Well, since I can't eat anymore, let's sit down and talk about something. I have to discuss this matter with you personally." Lu Chaoga looked at Qiang Long Tan and asked, "What is it?" Jiang Longtan's brows deeply furrowed as he solemnly said, "A lot of things have happened recently. First, you were attacked, and then Lu Jing died suddenly. To be honest, I'm under a lot of pressure. I, Qiang Long Tan, can say that I have a clear conscience, but I still can't ignore everyone's views and criticism. Everyone outside is saying that I'm the one who did it. They say that I killed him in order to control the whole Longta Group. I know that I'm not that kind of person. The reason why I haven't made that decision is because I think that the power of the whole is the strongest and the most competitive." Qiang Long Tan looked at Lu Chaoga with a gentle expression and kind eyes, as if he was looking at his most beloved daughter, and said, "I just held a meeting with the company's top management, and a lawyer notarized it on the spot. I'm going to transfer your father's shares to your name. In other words, I'm going to give you half of the Longta Group. You deserve it." Chapter 168. Half of Longta? Fong Yen opened his mouth slightly, his face full of surprise and joy. What surprised him was that Qiang Long Tan was really willing to give away half of Longta. Although Lu Chaoga's father, Lu Mingtu, had founded Longtu Group with Qiang Long Tan and the company name, Longtu, was taken from Qiang Long Tan's and Lu Mingtu's names, Lu Mingtu had used his technology to invest in the company. Moreover, due to his untimely death, the Lu family had long been separated from Longtu Group. The reason why Longtu Group could develop to its current scale was almost single-handedly created by Qiang Long Tan. It could be said that Qiang Long Tan was fully deserving of the soul and king of Longtu Group. However, Qiang Long Tan was actually willing to split the product of his hard work into two and give it to the daughter of an old friend. What surprised him was that with the current market value of Longtu Group and the possible future profits, Lu Chaoga would become a millionaire overnight. Fang Yan originally thought that he had hugged a thick thigh, but in the blink of an eye, this thick thigh had become a giant thigh. As long as Lu Chaoga took over these shares, her name might appear on the next Forbes World's Richest list. In this case, Lu Chaoga would be too embarrassed to take back her Rosefinch courtyard, right? Fang Yan was already full of expectations for his future life. As long as he continued to curry favor with Lu Chaoga and maintain a close friendship and comradeship with Lu Chaoga would bring him to eat, drink, and sleep with big breasts. The problem was, did Qiang Long Tan's actions prove that he was really not the murderer who killed Lu Chaoga's parents? Fang Yan felt that his IQ was not enough. The situation in front of him was getting more and more confusing. Fang Yingying and Fang Haohan, these two idiots, didn't understand what Qiang Long Tan's words meant. Fang Haohan's eyes occasionally glanced at Ren Jin, who was on the steps. The more he looked at her, the more he felt that this woman was interesting. Fang Yingying was trying to persuade him to give up on this idea, telling him that the women in the city were tigers and that he should avoid them at all costs. Jiang Julia's expression was calm. It seemed like he already knew about his father's actions. Instead, Ren Jin's expression changed greatly and he snapped, "Qiang Long Tan, have you discussed this with me before you made such a decision?" Qiang Long Tan glanced at Ren Jin and said with a smile, "What's there to discuss? Didn't I just say that? This is what Chaoga deserves." Deserved? Ren Jin sneered. Then it's really easy for her to earn money. What has the Lu family done for Longtu all these years? What has Lu Chaoga done for Longtu? When you were working overtime at the company day and night, she was studying and traveling in the United States with a designer bag on her back. When you were begging for help with a glass of wine in your hand, she was fulfilling her dreams and hobbies at school. Who developed Longtu? Without you, Qiang Long Tan, would Longtu be what it is today? Would Longtu be what it is today? Would Longtu be as valuable as it is today? She was living a pure and innocent life, and everyone took care of her. Now you've given away half of Longtu, with just a few words. Qiang Long Tan, let me tell you, I don't agree. Qiang Long Tan smiled bitterly and said, "Ren Jin, don't make trouble out of nothing. I've already held a board meeting before I came back, and now this decision has been approved by the board." Make trouble out of nothing? Ren Jin's expression was extremely ugly. Anyone who heard that their husband had given away billions of assets to someone else would have such a reaction. Moreover, this was a woman she hated very much. At that time, the investment in Longtu was made by me. According to the laws and regulations of joint property, I own half of your shares in Longtu. So I also have the right to vote. My attitude is that I don't agree. Okay. Qiang Long Tan's expression turned serious and said, "I'll explain this to you later." That's settled. Qiang Long Tan turned around and shouted, "Zhang Zhulu." Zhang Zhulu came forward and took out a document from the file bag in his hand and handed it over. Qiang Long Tan took the document and handed it to Lu Chaoga, saying, "Chaoga, take this document back and have a look. The shares will take effect after you sign it." Lu Chaoga's expression was calm, but she looked at Qiang Long Tan thoughtfully. "Take it." Qiang Long Tan smiled warmly and said, "Although this sounds a little distant, we'll be working partners from now on." Lu Chaoga took the document from Qiang Long Tan's hand and said softly, "Thank you. You really do owe me a thank you." Qiang Long Tan nodded and said with infinite emotion, "I've indeed invested too much in Longtu Group, time, energy, and everything. Fortunately, we're still a family. Longtu won't be divided, it's still a strong hole. Yes. Lu Chaoga said, Longtu won't be divided. It's still a hole. It's always been like that. Jiang Zhulu walked up to Lu Chaoga, smiled elegantly, and said in a very gentlemanly manner, Chaoga, congratulations. To be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable with my father's decision. That's half of Longtu we're talking about. But I still have to congratulate you. As my father said, you deserve it. The Jiang family isn't as greedy as people think, and we don't covet other people's things. Now that you've gotten back what belongs to you, I hope you'll be able to let go of the knot in your heart and be truly happy. Pausing for a moment, he glanced at Fang Yan beside him and said, Also, I want to say that I haven't given up. My pursuit of you has just begun. Why are you saying that? Qiang Long Tan waved his hand and said, I'm innocent. There's nothing to explain. But I won't get involved in your pursuit of Chaoga. That's between you young people. Chaoga, there's something I need your help with. Once the contract comes into effect, we'll need to hold a press conference to announce the change in ownership. Is that okay with you? No problem, said Lu Chaoga. Good. Qiang Long Tan nodded. It's settled then. If it's not convenient, I won't force you to stay for dinner. I'm tired. I'll let Zhulu drive you. Qiang Long Tan waved his hand and walked up to Rinjin, who was standing on the steps, looking exhausted. Lu Chaoga's car started up slowly, and the light from the back of the car shone on the wall, Qiang Long Tan, Rinjin, and Jiang Zhulio's faces. The light flickered on and off, and the expressions on their faces changed. It had been raining for a few days, and the nights in Huaqing were damp and cool. 19-Step Street used to be narrow and short, and people who had nothing better to do would only need 19 steps to walk the entire length of the street. Of course, 19-Step Street was no longer what it used to be. It was now one of the busiest streets in Huaqing. A young man and a young woman walked on 19-Step Street, attracting the attention of countless onlookers. Some people even took out their phones and tried to take pictures of them. The girl looked to be about 18 or 19 years old. She wore a simple white dress, a pair of red leather shoes, and a long leather shawl. She didn't have any accessories on her, but everyone who saw her felt that she was elegant and noble, and they forgot about the world. The man standing next to her gave off a strange feeling. He was slightly older than the girl, and he wore a white casual outfit. He couldn't be considered handsome, and his facial features weren't exquisite. His eyes looked a little too small, his lips looked a little too thick, and his nose didn't meet the standards of a male god that girls expected. However, when all these flaws were put together, it gave off a feeling of perfect harmony. He wasn't cold or handsome, but he had a unique aura. Even when he was walking with the girl next to him, no one thought that he would lose points or be a flower stuck in cow dung. They should be together. That was what everyone thought. The two of them walked aimlessly, their eyes focused on the road in front of them. They didn't look left or right, nor did they have the intention to shop. They looked more like they were walking than shopping. You're so boring, Qin Etienne said. The man smiled shyly, revealing 2 deep dimples on his face. He touched his nose and said embarrassedly, Many people say that. You said you wanted to see the night view of Huaqing. That's why I brought you out. I've already seen it. The man nodded and said, Every step we take is the night view of Huaqing. Have you really seen them? The people on the street, the dense crowd, the men and women walking towards us or brushing shoulders with us. Do you really think you've seen them with your own eyes? Qin Etienne said with a cold smile. I'm really curious. What kind of people can catch your eye? We've walked 749 steps on this street. There are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. There are 3 mothers carrying their children and 1 pregnant woman. She continued, We've walked 749 steps on this street, and there are 212 men, 1,656 women, and 19 children. Oh, we walked past 2 Nike stores and 2 opticians. I didn't pay much attention to the rest. After all, I'm really not very interested in these things. The man said with a smile. He still looked like a shy little boy when he smiled. Qin Etienne sighed softly and said, They say you have a photographic memory and that your mental calculation ability is unparalleled in the world. Looks like it's true. You also have a lot to learn from me, the man said. The people around me keep telling me that. What do you think you need to learn from me? Qin Etienne asked. I don't make tea as well as you do. Don't dress as well as you do. Don't have a grasp of fashion, don't sing, don't dance, and don't even like to talk. The man lowered his head and said, I think I have too many things to learn from you, right? But you're Jiang Junling. Qin Etienne curled his lips and said, Huaxia's hero Jiang Junling. Not every outstanding young man can get such an evaluation, right? Chapter 169. The Tao addict, song transplanting seedlings once said, Jiang Junling is the first hero of Huaxia. He also said, the son should be like Jiang Junling, and the adopted daughter must be like Qin Etienne. Because the Tao addict's skill in judging people was the best in the world, Jiang Junling and Qin Etienne, who were greatly praised by him, immediately became famous. Even the young people who had the same status as them, or who had even more illustrious family backgrounds, were far behind them in terms of influence. The Tao addict praised Jiang Junling twice in a row and flattered Jiang Junling as the first hero of Huaxia. But he also put Qin Etienne in the same position as him. Therefore, Qin Etienne's status also rose and became a shining pearl. After listening to Qin Etienne's words, Jiang Junling's shy face became more embarrassed. He shook his head and said, there are many talents in Yanjing, and heroes are like carps crossing the river. Huaxia is a big place with many talents. How can Jiang Junling dare to say that he is the first hero? Qin Etienne also felt the same way and said, the Tao addict is harmful. The two benefited from the words of the Tao addict. They could get more attention from all forces. As long as their performance was eye-catching, it was easy to get everyone's approval. With all kinds of resources piled up, it would be hard for one not to become a dragon or phoenix among men. However, they also suffered because of the Tao addict. They were still young and had a free and unrestrained heart. Being stared at by so many pairs of eyes, they also felt a great pressure that could penetrate through any opening. As long as we don't take its false reputation seriously, others won't take us seriously. Jiang Junling said, the best thing humans are good at is forgetfulness. It's boring to talk to you, Qin Etienne said. Jiang Junling smiled and said, you are the first person to talk to me like this. Others may think so, but they have never said so. Qin Etienne ignored him and turned to walk into the alley next to the pedestrian street. This alley was a street of snacks. There were juice shops, fruit shops, fried ice shops, fishball shops, and even more barbecue shops. 10 o'clock at night was the time when the barbecue stall's business was at its peak. Countless men and women gathered around the square tables, ordering a few skewers of lamb, chives, and eggplants to go with the wine, playing finger-guessing games and having a great time. Qin Etienne found an empty table and sat down, then shouted, "Boss, order." The proprietress came over with the menu. When she saw Qin Etienne's face clearly, she was stunned. The eloquence that she had developed over the years in the night market suddenly disappeared. It was as if she had suddenly lost the ability to speak. She wanted to praise Qin Etienne, but she couldn't bring herself to say it. For the first time, she felt that praising someone was actually a form of blasphemy. Qin Etienne took the menu and began to look through it. Then he ordered quickly, 4 skewers of beef, 4 mutton skewers, 2 chicken feet, 2 corn, 2 chives, oh, and a portion of sea white bean sprouts. Give me 2 mugs of draft beer.
Thank you.
Miss, you alone. I'm afraid you can't finish so much, the proprietress kindly reminded her. Qin Etienne pointed at Jiang Junling and said with a smile, I have companions.
Oh.
Then I'll go prepare now. The proprietress smiled fawningly and trotted away. Qin Etienne waved at Jiang Junling and said, It's my treat tonight. Jiang Junling smiled but didn't say anything. He stood far away from the barbecue stall and didn't want to move. He didn't want to sit on the greasy stool and accompany Qin Etienne to eat the barbecue food of unknown origin. Jiang Junling, You still can't put down that stinky attitude? Qin Etienne said sarcastically. My attitude isn't stinky. How can it be stinky? Zhang Junling said with a smile. Enjoy it. I'll wait for you. How boring. Qin Etienne looked at Zhang Junling and said. At that moment, the beer that Qin Etienne ordered was served. She picked up 2 mugs of beer and walked straight to the group of men at the next table. She said, Are you guys playing finger guessing?
Count me in.
As she spoke, she had already picked up a plastic chair with her foot and sat down. She put the beer on the table and said, Can we start now? Silence. Dead silence. The pupils of the blonde, skinny boy expanded. The acne on his pigtail opened his mouth wide. The azure dragon tattooed on his left arm, and the heavenly wolf tattooed on his right arm. The big fatso, who bragged to his friends that he wanted to drink the strongest alcohol, eat the fattest meat, and use the sharpest sword to fuck the sexiest woman, just like the protagonist of a novel by Gu Long. Everyone looked at Qin Etienne in surprise, looking at the woman who suddenly appeared in front of them. They were a little nervous, a little scared, but most of them didn't know what to do. This woman. She can't be a female demon, right? Knowing the background of the people at the table, the lady boss was worried that the delicate girl would be at a disadvantage sitting with them. She was about to come over and give her a friendly reminder, but the scene that unfolded in front of her left her puzzled and confused. The most vicious and greedy gangsters of the 19th Street welcomed such a fat sheep with this kind of attitude?
What? You don't want to?
Qin Etienne raised her eyebrows and asked. Her frown made the hearts, livers, lungs, and other organs of the gangsters melt. Azure Dragon Skywolf looked at Qin Etienne carefully and said, Girl, we don't know what kind of game you like to play. I'm fine with any kind. You guys can teach me, Qin Etienne said. Then let's play the 15 to 20 game we just played? Up to you. Start. Azure Dragon Skywolf shouted loudly. The others were also excited. With such a goddess on the scene, who wouldn't be on their best behavior? What was that saying again? When men and women pair up, drinking is only enjoyable. While Qin Etienne and the gangsters were having fun drinking and playing finger guessing, Zhang Junling was standing at the place where he had just stopped. His clothes were immaculate, his hair unruffled, his back ramrod straight. He maintained a calm and gentle smile on his face. Even if he had to wait for a long time, he wouldn't look anxious at all. It was only a few meters away, but it was like standing in 2 different worlds. After drinking the beer, he ordered more. After eating the barbecue, he ordered more. As time passed, it was late at night. Qin Etienne finally stood up. Lady boss, please pay the bill. Azure Dragon Skywolf shouted heroically. Let me do it. Qin Etienne stopped him. We just agreed that this meal is on me. Sister Tian, this is what we men should do. Azure Dragon Skywolf wanted to fight for it again. You can also pay the bill, Qin Etienne said. She pointed to the lady boss and said, Pay her back the money you owe. The lady boss's face changed and said anxiously, No need. It's really not necessary. You guys are giving us face by coming here for a meal and a bottle of wine. We can't wait to be happy. It's for us to warm up. She wasn't being modest. She was afraid from the bottom of her heart. These gangsters often fought with each other if they didn't agree. They would smash the tables and chairs, smashing their stall. If they didn't want to pay for the damage, then their hard work for several days would be in vain. If these gangsters just ate and drank, it wouldn't be a big problem for them. You want them to pay? Isn't that suicidal? Listen to what you're saying. Do you think we don't need your money for a meal? Azure Dragon Skywolf said with a red face. Since Sister Tian said so, we have to pay. Not only this meal, but also all the money we owe you before. Azure Dragon Skywolf took out a bunch of banknotes from his trouser pocket and stuffed them into the lady boss's hand without counting them. He said, You count first. We'll pay if it's not enough. He then pointed to the lackeys around him and said, You guys also take out your money. As a result, the lackeys opened their bags one after another. One paid 210 and the other paid 350. They stuffed the money in their pockets into the lady boss's hands. The lady boss didn't dare to take it, but she also didn't dare to not take it. She was in a dilemma where to stand. Azure Dragon Skywolf understood the lady boss's thoughts and said, I know what you're worried about. You're worried that we'll take revenge. I'm not. I'm really not. The lady boss's explanation was very weak. Lady boss, don't worry. We won't take revenge. Absolutely not. Not only will we not take revenge, but from today on, your stall will be under my protection. If anyone dares to fight here and eat without paying, they'll have to ask me first if I'm willing. Azure Dragon Skywolf looked at Qin Etienne and said, Sister Tian, I know you're not an ordinary person. Don't think that I'm uncultured. My eyes have never been wrong. It's my great fortune to be able to meet Sister Tian at this barbecue stall and to be able to drink and play finger-guessing games with us. It's also the fortune of my brothers. I'm a grateful person. I met Big Sister Tian at Lady Boss's barbecue stall and got the chance to drink with Big Sister Tian. So, I'm going to repay Lady Boss's kindness now. Does Big Sister Tian feel at ease now? Qin Etienne smiled and nodded. She looked at Azure Dragon Skywolf with her beautiful eyes and said, I've never doubted you. Qin Etienne waved at them, and the group of gangsters shouted affectionately, Sister Tian, take care. The autumn wind was bleak, and the lady boss stood in the wind with a handful of banknotes in her hand. Qin Etienne walked right past General Jean, not bothering to greet him. Jiang Junling took the initiative to follow him and said with a smile, Qin Etienne, do you think this kind of life is interesting?
Interesting, Qin Etienne said.
I like this kind of life. Jiang Junling, you're not down to earth. Why do I have to be down to earth? Jiang Junling said with a smile. We and them are not the same kind of people. You sit with them, you drink and play finger-guessing games with them, you call them brothers. But you're still above them. You're always looking down at them, and they're always looking up to you. Isn't that the case? Jiang Junling smiled brightly, revealing his snow-white teeth, and said, They can't enter our world, so I won't easily cross into their world. Chapter 170. So you always maintain a high and mighty attitude, like a god? Qin Etienne asked. Your so-called fusion, isn't it just another form of being high and mighty? Wherever you go, you change the fate and direction of some people and things, just like that lady boss. You are also a god. The difference between us is that I am a god who does not do things, and you are a god who does things. I am not a god. Qin Etienne said. God is too far away. Have you seen Marvel movies? I am a god with power, just like the hero in those stories. I have such power. Why don't I use it to change the fate of some poor people around me and the final outcome of some sad things? I like the feeling of change, as if seeing them reborn in front of my eyes. Jiang Junling smiled and said, I am different from you. After watching those movies, I want to destroy the world more. Destruction is more fulfilling than change. Otherwise, why do people like to smash cups when they are angry? Don't work together when we have different goals. But many people hope that we can finally come together. General Ling smiled and said, that old man Song Zhongqing said that his son should be General Ling's wife, and his adopted daughter must be Qin Etienne. That in itself was a sinister move. Who do you think ordered him to do that? Who can instruct Tao Addict? There will always be someone, Jiang Junling said with deep eyes. If there is a dragon, there must be a dragon slayer. If there is a real god, there will also be a god slayer messenger, in a place that we can't see with the naked eye. Are you a man of power? No, I am a man of profit. There is no lack of such people in this world, Qin Etienne said. But those people are not willing to admit that they are such people. That's because they're still talking about money at a low level. We are talking about numbers. Jiang Junling, you are so arrogant. Qin Etienne, you are the same. Qin Etienne's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, Jiang Junling, let me introduce you to a friend. A very interesting friend. Friend? Jiang Junling had just asked when he realized that Qin Etienne had already walked quickly towards a Hunan restaurant by the roadside. Jiang Junling smiled and followed behind him. Fang Yan, Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan were burying their heads in the food. They were worthy of being the experts from the old Tai Chi family. The way they picked up the food and the speed at which they picked up the food was beyond the reach of ordinary people. They had wanted to go to the Jiang family's house to eat well-done steak, bread, and dessert, but the Jiang family refused to provide them with food. On the way back, they stopped at the 19th Street for lunch. They planned to go back to sleep after lunch. No one was cooking at home. Lu Chaoga rarely moved her chopsticks. She didn't know if it was because she wasn't interested in the hot and spicy food in front of her or because she was thinking about her own matters. She had just obtained half of Longtu and became a super rich woman with billions of funds. There were indeed a lot of things she needed to figure out. The most urgent problem was, how was he going to spend so much money? If Fong Yan encountered such a problem, he would definitely be anxious to death. Fong Yan looked up at Lu Chaoga and said, "You don't like spicy food, right? Don't worry, I ordered a vegetarian dish for you." "There is a vegetarian dish? What vegetarian dish?" Fong Yingying asked without looking up with a greasy piece of boiled meat in his mouth. "Tiger skin pepper. You guys eat." Lu Chaoga said, "I'm not hungry." "You still have to eat a little," Fong Yan said. "Only with a good body can you inherit a good fortune. Didn't it say on the internet? The most tragic thing in the world is to have money, but not a person." "Fong Yan," someone shouted behind him. Fong Yan turned around and saw Qin Etienne pushing open the glass door and coming in. Fong Yan looked at her in surprise and asked, "Qin Etienne, why are you still here so late?" "Eating," Qin Etienne said. She looked at Fong Yingying and Fong Haohan, and then looked at Lu Chaoga. She took the initiative to greet and said, "Hello, Principal Lu." Lu Chaoga nodded to Qin Etienne and said, "Hello, Qin Etienne." Lu Chaoga was no stranger to the #1 student in the school. "I don't think I'm disturbing you guys, am I?" Qin Etienne asked with a smile. "You'd better go back quickly," Fong Yan said. Being called by his own student in front of his immediate superior, Fong Yan felt his self-esteem was hit. It would not be good if Lu Chaoga misunderstood that the students in the 9th class didn't respect him. Therefore, he wanted to send Qin Etienne away as soon as possible. "We're going back after eating. Let me introduce you to my friend." Qin Etienne glanced at Zhang Junling, who was standing not far behind, and said, "Zhang Junling, although I know you're not interested in meeting him." "General what?" Fong Yan's eyes widened. "Zhang Junling," Qin Etienne said. "You came out to meet your online friend?" Fong Yan was shocked. He stood up, looked at Qin Etienne, and said in a low voice, "Qin Etienne, you have to be careful. The media often reported that girls were cheated of money and sex when they met online friends, and some even lost money and sex. I read a newspaper 2 days ago that a girl's phone was stolen by a male online friend when she was taking a shower after having sex with him. How hateful. How could she chat with others on WeChat without her phone?" There were even more tragic things that Fong Yan was too embarrassed to say. A girl took the train for more than 10 hours to Yanjing to visit her online friend. As a result, the online friend treated her to a 6 yuan spicy hot pot, but had sex with her 12 times in one night. Qin Etienne smiled and said, "He's not an online friend, and Zhang Junling is not an online name. His surname is General, and his name is Zhang Junling." Fong Yan looked a little embarrassed and said, "This surname is quite rare. There is a surname General among the 100 surnames? I'll have to study it later." Qin Etienne pointed at Fong Yan and introduced him to Zhang Junling. "Fong Yan, the language teacher of the 9th class, the man I like." Zhang Junling smiled at Fong Yan from afar, but he didn't want to shake hands with him. In his eyes, Fong Yan and he were not the same kind of people. Since they were not the same kind of people, why should they be forced to be together? "Your boyfriend?" Fong Yan asked. There was a sour feeling in his heart. Qin Etienne used to like him for no reason at all. Why did she suddenly fall in love with someone else? A person should have a beginning and an end, okay? Even if I don't like you, I didn't stop you from liking me. What do you think? Qin Etienne's eyes were full of smiles, hidden joy and shyness. Qin Etienne could be shy? Seeing Qin Etienne's shy look, Fong Yan's heart sank even more. He looked at Qin Etienne earnestly and said, "Student Qin Etienne, you are a student. Students should focus on their studies. As your language teacher and the head teacher of the 9th class, I have to tell you seriously, you can't have puppy love." Fang Yan looked at Jiang Junling again and said, "Mr. General, this surname is really different. Mr. General is an adult, your thinking is more mature, and your understanding of the world is more comprehensive and profound. I think, as a responsible man, we should give girls more time, wait until they grow up and mature, then listen to their heart's choice. Is that right?"
Yes.
Jiang Junling said with a smile. "Mr. General's character is admirable. I believe you are a good man. You will definitely find your true happiness." Fang Yan said. As for who that true happiness was, no one knew. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and said, "I think so. If other people don't agree, I think she will be in a difficult position." "What do you mean?" Fang Yan looked at Qin Etienne. Which parent would be willing to rush their daughter to find a husband before she grew up and matured? Qin Etienne smiled and said, "Maybe he thinks that my parents will be worried about me not being able to get married."
How can that be?
Fang Yan said angrily, "What kind of parents would do that? When will your parents be home? I'll pay them a home visit and talk to them. They're not in Huacheng." Qin Etienne refused. "But you will definitely meet them. I promise. I'm a teacher. No matter how busy they are, they have to make time to meet me, right?" Fang Yan said. "I also want to talk to them about your studies and performance in school. The results you've achieved, the problems, and the areas that you hope to improve. It's really difficult," Qin Etienne said. "Even if the mayor of Huacheng wanted to meet her parents, it would be extremely difficult, right? But you can talk to me about these problems." Fang Yan was not willing to talk to Qin Etienne. He knew that it was useless to talk. Qin Etienne looked at Fang Yan and said with a smile, "Enjoy your meal. I won't disturb you anymore." After nodding at the others, he turned around and walked out. Jiang Junling looked at Fang Yan and followed behind Qin Etienne. "It's really beautiful," Fang Yingxiong praised sincerely. "Renjin is beautiful too," Fang Haoan added. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, "Actually, our Principal Lu is the prettiest." "Principal Lu, you'll be leaving Rosefinch soon, right? If you go to Longtu, will you bring a secretary or assistant with you? You know I'm a language teacher. Today I'm going to recruit people of talent and family. I think I'm qualified for this job. Believe in my sincerity, believe in your eyes. I'll bring you a comfortable and satisfied smile." Lu Chaoga looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Why do I have to leave? Don't tell me you still want to stay in Rosefinch?" Fang Yan asked in confusion. How cool would it be to be the deputy director of Longtu Group? It would be much better than staying in Rosefinch, right? "Before I understand a lot of things, I won't leave Rosefinch," Lu Chaoga said. "Rosefinch can be my Rosefinch, but Longtu is someone else's Longtu." You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.